Hello guys, this is Dark Fox Sage 2 and we are back with our new fanfic, which is What If Naruto Found His Love in Hidden Cloud Village Part 1. And if you enjoy this fanfic, then please press the like button and please subscribe to the channel. It motivates me to upload more fanfic like these for you all. Now let's start the fanfiction. Namikaze Minato, a man known by the moniker of Yellow Flash, was the fastest shinobi to ever live. His skills in taijutsu, ninjutsu were good, but he was a master in fuinjutsu and one of its most rarely studied branches of space-time ninjutsu. He invented the two most feared jutsus in the history of the elemental nations, which he used in the Third Great Shinobi War against a battalion of over 1,000 IWA shinobi and came out victorious. This was the major turning point of the Third Great Shinobi War. These two jutsus were which came to be known as the Hiraishin no Jutsu, and the Rasengan. Minato was considered an orphan when he was found at the village gates, but he was forced to hide his heritage because of the animosity he would have garnered with the truth. His father, the once great leader of the Uchiha clan Madara Uchiha, survived his last battle with Hashirama Senju, the Shadaime Hokage and wielder of Mokuden. Madara Uchiha, after the battle at the Valley of the End, started going away from Konoha with grave injuries. He walked through the forests for hours and was on the verge of dying from his wounds when he was found by a young woman with blonde hair and blue sapphire eyes. She took him to his home and tended to his injuries. Madara woke up after 3 days still gravely injured and looked around to find himself in a room on a bed and bandages wrapped around his torso and arms. He attempted to get out of his bed, but a loud groan escaped his lips. The door suddenly opened and the same woman he last caught a glimpse of in the forest came in and started checking on his wounds. Flashback. At first sight, Madara had to say she was a beautiful woman with sunshine blonde hair, sapphire blue eyes that had deep emotions and a playful mischief in them. She was wearing a simple pink kimono that hung to her curves, and she walked with a grace that Madara noticed could be found only in kunoichi of noble clans. As he came back to his senses, he asked the woman, "Where am I?" To which the woman replied, "You were very injured when I found you, so I brought you here to tend to your injuries." "Thank you. May I ask who are you?" asked Madara. To which she replied, "My name is Mia Namikaze, may I know yours?" Madara nodded, replied, "Madara Uchiha, former leader of the Uchiha clan. I lost the fight versus my best friend and was forced to flee in the condition you found me. I thank you for helping me because I would surely have been dead had you not rescued me." Mia nodded in acceptance and began to check on his bandages. After finishing on his bandages, she gave him some food, a few medicines, and left him to rest. After a month of recuperation, Madara noticed that his injuries were much too great and he shall never be at the level he once was. He continued to stay at the woman's house and found out that she was of the Namikaze clan, a small clan back during the Warring Clans era, and left when she was quite young due to not liking the violence which he knew all too well about. She had a kind and gentle nature and had some training in the shinobi arts. Many months passed and Madara was tired of the fighting and noted that he no longer had anything to fight for after the betrayal of his clan. He fell in love with the woman that had saved him all those months ago. He married her after 5 years and had a child. The child was named Minato Namikaze. He did not add his surname so as to protect the boy from his father's reputation. 3 years later, the child was started training in the shinobi arts and at age 6 activated the Sharingan, the birthright of the Uchiha clan. Somehow Kumogakur caught whiff of Madara's survival and his family. The Sandaime Raikage sent 5 Anbu squads to kill the man and retrieve his son to obtain the Sharingan for Kumo. They ambushed the house while Madara was out and his wife died trying to protect her son, and Madara arrived at home in her last moments and a battle ensued with an enraged Madara. He kicked the 2 Kumo shinobi out of the house and engaged them in battle. Though crippled, he was still a fearsome shinobi. The rest fired long-range lightning attacks which were dodged. Madara started going through lightning fast hand seals and yelled, "Fire style, great fire annihilation." A narrow stram of fire erupted from his mouth and suddenly spread into a giant wall of inferno. 2 squads were charred immediately while the rest narrowly dodged. A shinobi suddenly came behind Madara and swiped his sword, which grazed Madara. Madara narrowed his eyes at the sword and noticed it was poisoned. He engaged him with a kunai which was infused with wind chakra and cut right through the Kumo shinobi's sword and ripped his arm off. The rest went through hand seals and yelled, "Lightning style, Gale Lightning." Lightning bolts launched out of the Kumo shinobi's hands and towards Madara. With no way to dodge, Madara's Sharingan started spinning dangerously and began changing shape. Suddenly ethereal skeleton bones started forming around Madara and a purple being formed around him as Madara yelled, "Susanoo." The attacks collided and a huge blast was formed. When the smoke cleared, Madara was on his knees panting, the Susanoo still standing strong. Madara realized that he won't last long if the battle continued longer and needed to finish it in a single blow. He pushed more chakra into the Susanoo and the Susanoo started forming 4 hands and a skull, over all of which an armor formed. The hands pulled out the swords over which Madara concentrated his Sharingan and the black flames of Amaterasu consumed them. He swiped the sword over the Kumo shinobi. 4 shinobi were sliced in half while the rest were consumed by the flames. As the battle ended, Madara coughed up blood and started to walk towards his house. In the house he saw that his wife was sitting against the wall in a pool of blood. He knelt down beside her as tears escaped his eyes. His wife smiled softly at him and laid a hand on his cheek. He kissed her one last time as she told him to take care of their son and told him she loved him as the last breaths escaped her lips and she closed her eyes. He screamed in agony and cried, asking the gods why. Why did he have to lose his brother for the clan only to be betrayed by his clan, and now the only girl he ever loved died? Why? He thought about fighting on and getting revenge, but immediately stopped that chain of thought and decided to look for his son. Then he put his 2 fingers on the ground and expanded his sensory abilities and found his son to be in the back house used for storage. He slid the door open and walked in and he saw his son curled up in a ball sobbing. He walked towards him and embraced his son in a hug as he sobbed uncontrollably. He picked him up and walked into his as his son fell asleep in his arms. He put him to bed and started writing a letter. The letter was addressed to his friend Tobarama Senju and explained to him the whole situation. Madara knew that Tobarama was an intelligent and unbiased individual and won't hesitate to help his son. After half an hour he finished it and rolled up the scroll. In another scroll he started sealing some money, clothes, basic ninja tools such as kunai, shuriken and ninja wire and the various jutsu scrolls he possessed. As he finished, his son walked in and Madara told him to get ready to leave. Both father and son, after burying their wife, mother started jumping through the trees towards Konohagakure no Sato. As the village came into sight, Madara stopped and so did his son. He handed down the 2 scrolls to his son who looked at him confusedly. He took a deep breath and sighed, knowing this won't be easy. He started, "Son, you have to go to the village alone, and from here on out I will not be with you from here on because my shadow will always keep you in danger and my enemies will not stop to harm you if you stay with me any longer. Therefore from here on you will have to live alone. Go and become a great shinobi worthy of your predecessors, make them, me and your mother proud." By the end his son had tears in his eyes and leapt in his father's arms as he told him he won't leave. After some persuading he nodded as he told him he would come and meet him after he has grown strong and test him. He nodded and told him the next time he met him he would beat him to the ground, to which his father chuckled and told him he had no doubt and ruffled the boy's hair. He told his son to give the letter to Tobarama Senju and that it would explain him everything and to never tell anyone who his father was. He watched as his son walked through the gates of the village as a terror caped his eye and he said to no one in particular, "Sorry my son, but with my injuries I won't last long and won't be able to meet you again. Forgive me." Time skipped to the day of Kyuubi's attack. Minato Namikaze and his wife were going to have some new additions to their family. Minato was ecstatic that he was going to be a father to 3 children at once, 2 daughters and a son. "Oh, How he wanted to train his son to be a shinobi so that he could make his old man proud, and Minato already knew that Kushina always wished for a daughter. The seal on Kushina had held up pretty well, and just before birth, Minato had rechecked and strengthened it again just to be sure. Suddenly, a nurse came out from the OT and told him that everything had gone perfectly well, and that the children along with their mother were perfectly safe. Minato had heaved a deep sigh of relief at the last part. Minato had immediately rushed in, and a wide smile had broken across his face when he had seen an exhausted Kushina laying on the bed holding 3 precious children in her arms. He had gingerly taken the 2 identical-looking daughters from her arms, and had observed that the girls had retained their mother's red hair and violet eyes. Minato had handed them back to Kushina after a moment's deliberation, and he had went on to take his son into his arms, smiling ear to ear. Minato's son had inherited his strong Namikaze genes, and the boy looked just like his father. The baby boy had inherited his father's spiky blonde hair and sapphire blue eyes as well, and had 3 whisker marks on each of his cheeks to boot. His son was going to be a lady killer and have a fan club, Minato mused giddily. Kushina had already told him that she was going to name her daughters Narumi and Mito, and Minato had already told her that he was going to name his son Naruto, and for once the bickering couple had mutually agreed with one another. Suddenly, out of nowhere, a masked man warped into the room through a vortex, and launched a hail of kunai at Minato. Minato instinctively jumped back, and slickly dodged the kunai while the masked man went on to take advantage of his position to speak a select few words before warping Kushina and himself through the vortex again. 4th Hokage, I will be taking the Jinchuriki from here, and you should act fast lest see your daughters become a little. He paused for a moment's deliberation. Crisp. The masked fellow added with a childlike chuckle, and disappeared along with Kushina. Minato wondered for a moment if he was even sane or what he meant, but took one look in the crib of his daughters to see them wrapped in a blanket with exploding tags and his thoughts dried out pretty quickly. He picked up his children and used his Hiraishin no Jutsu to teleport out just in time as the room in the hospital exploded behind his back. Minato sat on his knees in silent contemplation. His eyes tracked a dry leaf fall down from a tree, and his arms cradled the snoring infants to his chest. Not a moment later, he disappeared into thin air before the leaf could make contact with the ground. Minato brought his children back to his house, and put them on the bed. He took 2 of his 3-pronged kunai with him from the table, and again used the Hiraishin marker on Kushina's seal and teleported to where she was. As he came to the clearing, he dreadfully saw that the Kyuubi had been freed and that, thanks to the gods above, Kushina had somehow managed to survive the extraction. But that was all he could thank them for, as she was just about to be pierced by its claw. He picked her up bridal style, and teleported to a nearby marker, thereby escaping the attack. The masked man laughed once again in that insane, childlike manner. You're just as fast as your name suggests, aren't you? Just like the stories say, Yellow Flash. He chuckled, and Minato turned to him to give him an icy gaze. That of a reaper, a veteran shinobi, an army killer, a gaze of a legend. The masked man had shivers running down his spine seeing his icy sapphire blue eyes and the confidence, experience and determination those eyes held. Minato, though, said nothing, and teleported back to the house where he laid Kushina down besides the triplets and stepped back. His eyes glazed over what he would have to do, and how he wouldn't be able to see his children grow up. If only Kushina wasn't injured or Jiraiya was in the village, they could have subdued the Biju and gone on re-seal it without any loss of life. But now, there was only one seal that would be able to subdue as well as seal the Biju, but he had to turn his own children into Jinchuriki and condone the worst taboo right unto his children. Her eyes looked at him grimly. What are you going to do now, Minato? Whispered Kushina, already dreading his answer. I will have to split the demon and seal it into our children. Minato confessed quickly and in a heavy voice. I cannot ask another parent to sacrifice their child if I cannot do it to my own. How I'll split it, I haven't decided, but I'll figure it out. Don't you worry. He said in a reassuring tone, but Kushina started crying. You're going to use that jutsu, aren't you? She asked him in sobs. Minato looked down solemnly. There is no other way. But, at least, I can rest happy that they will have you watching over them, he admitted, and she nodded. She hugged her children tightly to her chest and cried as Minato put on his cloak, created 4 shadow clones who teleported to a clearing outside the village, and he himself teleported to the top of the Hokage monument only to see the Kyuubi destroying the better half of his village in a crazed rampage. Minato activated his Sharingan and flared his chakra to turn the Kyuubi attention towards him. He watched, his Sharingan flaring, as the Kyuubi started gathering chakra near his mouth and condensed it into a sphere before launching it towards him. Minato knew instinctively that should he let that attack hit, then everything and everyone near the mountain will be destroyed as well. That was not an outcome he as Hokage was willing to take place. Not as long as he was still breathing. Minato went through several hand seals, and put his hands forward. Kanji spread in the air as it started absorbing the Bijudama, and teleported it outside the village. The villagers cheered seeing their Hokage take control of the battle. Through the hoots and cheers, Minato felt his instincts screaming danger as he felt a presence behind him. Twisting around, he sawed his arm around and pierced a kunai at the masked man's head, but was stunned when it phased right through his head and the enemy grabbed his wrist in an iron bind. The masked man spoke once more, in a serious tone this time, completely different from his childish tone before. It's over. He stated dryly. Minato smirked, exploding, and took the masked man by complete surprise. The invader cradled his burnt body, and seethed at being fooled by a mere substitution. Moreover, he had taken quite a bit of damage from that unexpectedly effective attack. Minato teleported to a rooftop nearby the Biju, and bit his thumb. He went through a chain of hand seals and slammed his palm on the ground. Ninja art. Summoning jutsu, food cart destroyer. The whole ground rumbled as Gamabunta appeared on top of the Kyuubi, and slammed his butt over his head. The Bijudama he was preparing, disappearing from the abrupt distraction. Minato, why the hell did you summon? Oi, is that the Kyuubi I'm sitting on? Gamabunta yelled frantically just as Minato hopped on top of his head, and started gathering his own chakra. Bunta, just hold down the Kyuubi for a moment. I will subdue it, and seal it into my children, he said, and Gamabunta slammed his back over Kyuubi who tried to roar in defiance. Stand down, ya stupid mutt. Minato, do you really think it wise to seal it into your own children? You know what kind of lives Jinchuriki lead, are you sure about this? He asked, and Minato had a solemn look on his face. There is no other way. He sighed. Besides, Kushina will take care of them. The only regret I have is that I won't be able to make my son into the shinobi I want him to be with my own hands, and watch my daughters grow up into the fine women I know they'll be, he admitted, and Gamabunta nodded with a sad smile. Minato finished gathering his chakra and teleported them outside the village in the clearing where his clones had already set up a barrier. Minato, I won't be able to hold it down for long. Summon Pa and Ma for help, yelled Gamabunta. Minato nodded, bit his thumb and started going through hand seals before slamming his palm on the ground. Ninja art. Summoning jutsu. 2 small, but very ancient-looking toads puffed into existence. Minato-chan, what is going on here? Why is Gamabunta sitting on the Kyuubi? And why is it free? What have you called us here for? Asked Pa in a frenzy. Ma turned her gaze to Minato as both came to a knot, feeling dread coil in their hearts upon understanding the situation. Pa, Ma, I am going to split the Kyuubi and seal it into my children. Minato confirmed their worries. Please, I need your help. Hold it down for me while I set up the ritual, he requested desperately, and Pa and Ma nodded. They rushed to the Kyuubi to hold it down using senjutsu while Minato created a shadow clone who teleported and brought his children, and Kushina along, to help stabilize and check the seal after the sealing was done. Minato went through a chain of hand seals, and summoned the ritual altar from hell while the clone kept his children on the altar. Minato went through hand seals one last time, and clapped his hands together. Forbidden secret art. Dead demon consuming seal. A feeling of dread and coldness swept over the field as the Shinigami appeared behind Minato. What do you wish to seal, mortal? Questioned the Shinigami just as Hiruzen, Kakashi and Tsunade appeared outside the barrier only to helplessly witness the sealing take place. Shinigami-sama, I wish to seal the Kyuubi into my children. My wish is to split it, and seal it into them. Minato wished. The Shinigami spoke up again, the children won't be able to hold half of the chakra and the soul together. Their bodies will not be able to withhold the strain the seal will cause. I must split its yin and yang chakra, and split them from its consciousness and body to seal it separately. Choose, mortal, which child will hold what? Shinigami stated monotonously. Minato mulled over it for a minute. His daughters had strong Uzumaki genes like their mother, and should be able to hold its chakra efficiently, while Naruto would most probably will inherit his Sharingan to control its consciousness, should he ever need its aid. Minato had already had his decision made. Shinigami-sama, seal the consciousness and body in my son, and the chakra in my daughters. He confirmed. The Shinigami said nothing, opting to pierce his hand through Minato's chest and seal the chakra after splitting them into his daughters while he sealed the consciousness and body into his son. Minato added a 4-symbol seal on Narumi and Mito while he added an 8-trigram seal onto Naruto to balance the chakra that the Kyuubi might recover over the years, and leak it into the boy's coils slowly after purifying it, also that his chakra coils became strong enough for holding the increasing strain of the Kyuubi over the years. Minato felt the pain of his jutsu take its toll on his body, and fell down to his knees just as the Shinigami spoke one final time before he claimed his payment. You have 15 minutes to do your last deeds in this realm for your honorable sacrifice. See and do what you want in these last moments before I claim your soul, and take you to the afterlife. Forever. The Shinigami stated, and Minato nodded gratefully. The shadow clones around him dispersed, and the barrier fell, making everyone gather around him. Minato, what have you done? Hiruzen cried. Tsunade, treat him. He needs it, now. He shouted, seeing his successor's condition. Kushina was crying heavily on the sidelines when Minato stopped Tsunade from treating him. The buxom blonde tried to protest, but he cut her off. It's of no use, Tsunade. Minato admitted softly. The Shinigami has given me 15 minutes for my last moments to be with you. Please, it's useless. As for the sealing, the children were not strong enough to hold all of the Kyuubi's chakra. So, I split its chakra into yin and yang and sealed it in my daughters for their strong Uzumaki genes, and its consciousness and body rests in my son, he said, looking at Hiruzen for the last part. Everyone looked on in sadness at the sacrifice Minato had made for the village, all of them unable to do anything to help him. Kushina stopped crying for a moment, and hugged him, sobbing thickly in his chest. Kushi-chan, Minato whispered, softly stroking her hair. Please go, and check if the seals have stabilized or not. See if the children are alright or not. I won't be able to rest in peace if my children had to suffer because I made a mistake in sealing. He said with a wince, and she got up hurriedly with nod to the children at the altar. He smiled as he saw her kiss and check over his daughters. At least they will have the love of their mother. But Minato's eyes turned icy and calculative when he saw a flicker of emotions pass through Kushina's eyes as she gazed at Naruto with utter hatred and disdain in her eyes while she checked on his seal. Suspicions and scenarios started playing in Minato's mind on seeing this, and he decided to take countermeasures, just in case, and so, Minato turned to Hiruzen with his veteran shinobi eyes. Hiruzen instantly came near him seeing that look, and listened to him carefully. Sarutobi, get me 3 blank scrolls, and a brush and some ink. Minato whispered. Hiruzen nodded, giving orders to the Anbu through secret hand signs who brought him the required items in a second, and Hiruzen handed it to Minato. Minato started writing stroke upon stroke at a fast pace, and sealed the 2 scrolls with the Namikaze blood seal. Much to Hiruzen's surprise, he added only Naruto's blood and chakra signature to them and sealed the last one with Hiruzen's blood, just as he decided to leave the third with his last instructions. Hiruzen, I have to tell you something important. And I only trust you with this, Minato whispered, pressing the scrolls on Sarutobi's chest. Hiruzen nodded wordlessly, hearing the gravity of his voice. The 2 scrolls with the Namikaze seals are my will and a letter to Naruto, both of which you shall give him at the time of his graduation. The entire Namikaze fortune shall be sealed until the time he graduates from the academy and has enough experience and maturity to claim them as his, and his alone. I trust your judgment with its timing. The scroll with your blood seal is a letter that you must only open if Kushina ever decides to harm, or abandon Naruto. Under no circumstances are you to let anything happen to him. Have him seen as the hero of the village he is. Naruto shall be named the Namikaze clan heir due to his strong Namikaze genes, while Narumi and Mito will inherit the Uzumaki fortune. I trust you to take care of Naruto if my suspicions come true. Can't I, Sarutobi? Hiruzen clasped his shaking hands and nodded tearfully. In reverse, summon Pa and Ma at the time you reveal his heritage. He must have the toad contract I have left them, there will be some instructions with them too. Minato coughed thickly while Hiruzen looked confused and stunned. But Minato, Kushina would never do such a thing. Why are yo? He stopped protesting just as Minato asked him in a cold voice. Do I have your word, Hiruzen Sarutobi? Minato asked coldly, and Hiruzen looked at him with determined eyes and nodded. Minato didn't want to believe it too, but he wasn't going to leave the fate of his child helpless if his fears did in fact come true. Yes, you have it. Naruto will be taken care of like a prince and will get the possessions you have left if your fears do in fact come true. I give you my word. Hiruzen promised. Minato smiled. Nodding, he coughed up even more blood, and seeing the stains on his hands he realized he didn't have much time left. Hiruzen, bring me my children. I want to see them, I want to hold them one last time. Minato whispered. Hiruzen went and brought him his children and Kushina along with him as he handed him the children while Minato looked at them lovingly. Live your lives as you want. Minato kissed their cheeks. You are all special. Don't let anyone let you tell otherwise. You might face some difficulties in your lives, but never falter. And know that I am always watching over you, and your daddy loves you 3 with all his heart. Minato sniffled, handing them back to Hiruzen, who took them carefully in his arms. Minato, you can hold them some more. Hiruzen trailed off as he saw Minato's eyes drop close and his head drop. A smile was plastered on Minato's face and some final tears rolled down his cheeks. Kushina fainted from exhaustion and shock while everyone dropped their heads in respect at the man's sacrifice, as the strongest of all the Hokages left this world. Don't worry, my friend, Hiruzen whispered. I'll honor every wish of yours, and look after Naruto as if he was my own child, he mourned. Naruto cried, and Hiruzen tried to calm him down with a rock of his arms. After a few moments, Naruto fell asleep as Hiruzen took the children to the hospital along with their mother. Time skip 2 hours. Konoha Hospital. Hiruzen was sitting in the hospital room after having his wounds treated, and was waiting for Kushina to wake up while he took care of her children in the meantime. He had postponed the council meeting for the time being. The council members had protested, but had shut up and left happily after he had told them that he would retake his position as Hokage. Well, everyone except Danzo was happy, but that had been pretty obvious for Hiruzen from the start. Tsunade had left the village after Minato's death, saying she was going to live at the Senju property in the fire capital along with Shizune, as she couldn't live in the village after everyone she trusted had already died in this cursed village. She didn't want to see any more deaths. She had even left him the Shadime's necklace, saying it was cursed as Minato was the last person she had given it to and he too had died. She had actually thrown it in the trash, but Hiruzen had kept his sensei's legacy for someone who was worthy enough. Suddenly, Kushina's eyes fluttered open as Hiruzen rushed to her side. Sarutobi, where is Minato? Kushina asked solemnly and Hiruzen eyed her sadly. Minato is gone, Kushina. Hiruzen said mournfully. He left us a few moments after you fainted. He admitted, and silent tears streamed down Kushina's eyes. Where are my children, Hiruzen? She asked. Hiruzen stood up, and went to the crib. Picking up the daughters, he handed them to her. Kushina smiled and cooed at them while Hiruzen went back to go fetch Naruto to hand him over to his mother. But Hiruzen's worst fears came true when Kushina slapped his hand away just as he tried handing Naruto over to her. What's the matter, Kushina? Hiruzen asked dreadfully. Don't you want to hold your son? He asked in confusion. Kushina looked at Naruto in utter contempt. Don't call that demon my son, Sarutobi. She spat venomously, making Hiruzen's eyes go wide. That thing took my husband away from me. Don't you dare call him my son. He is the Kyuubi reincarnate. Those whisker marks are proof enough. Kushina sneered at the child. Hiruzen took it all in with wide eyes, before his expression turned furiously red. What the hell are you talking about, Kushina? Hiruzen snarled right back. He just has the consciousness and body of the Kyuubi sealed inside of him. He is not the Kyuubi. Have you gone insane? You are a seal master yourself, and were a Jinchuriki merely a few hours ago. What's the matter with you? He asked furiously while Kushina returned his look full force. I told you, I don't have anything to do with that demonic child. He was dead to me as soon as Minato sealed the monster's soul in him. Two souls, one of an infant and one of a demon coexisting, you make laugh. As far as I am concerned, I only have two daughters. She spat with a venom-laced voice. Kushina, please see reason. Hiruzen pleaded. You have been blinded by the loss and pain of Minato. Please, see him. He is an innocent child in need of a mother. Nothing more. He pleaded in a desperately, trying to hand Naruto over to her, but Kushina tried to slap his hands again before Hiruzen retracted his arms defensively. Do not bring him close to me, Sarutobi, or I swear will finish what I started and kill him to avenge Minato's death. Kushina said in a promising tone with such hatred that Sarutobi knew she meant it and clutched the peaceful child to his chest protectively. I don't believe you, Kushina. You have fallen so low, Hiruzen whispered solemnly. Very well then. I shall take care of the boy as my own, he admitted in a steely voice to Kushina, who merely huffed and turned back to her daughters. I will go reside in the fire capital where the Uzumaki property is situated, under the protection of the daimyos. Kushina's words took Hiruzen by surprise. I'll raise my daughters over there and will come back during the time of their graduation, after I am satisfied with their training, she promised, and Hiruzen nodded wordlessly. Minato, you truly were a genius in every sense of the word. I never believed Kushina could do such a thing to her own son until now. But you saw right through her, even in the face of death, and took precautions. Don't worry, old friend, I'll protect Naruto from every danger, whether it be from outside the village or the inside. I'll honor your every wish and give him his inheritance after he is ready and protect him until then. Hiruzen thought in his mind. I shall take some scrolls and things from the Namikaze compounds too before I leave. Kushina broke his train of thoughts. And know that I disown him from both the Uzumaki and Namikaze clans, she said as Hiruzen hardened his eyes and spoke in an even tone. I'm sorry, Kushina, but Minato has left specific instructions with me in case something like this happened after his death. He declared Naruto as his clan heir in his dying moments and sealed off the Namikaze fortune until Naruto is ready to claim it. Until that time comes, no one shall touch a speck of grass on the Namikaze family fortune or their scrolls. He had already imagined this scenario even in the face of death and took necessary steps before he passed on. Minato has left me with specific instructions that you may do whatever you wish with the Uzumaki fortune, but the fortune of the Namikaze is sealed until the time I deem Naruto ready to claim it. Hiruzen said coldly. Kushina's eyes widened hearing this. Minato had sealed off everything from her. And named it all to that thing. Preposterous. You can't do that to me. Kushina protested. I'm his wife. That fortune is mine, and our daughters. Minato would never do such a thing to me. The Namikaze fortune belongs to me and my daughters alone, not to that thing. She spat in utter contempt. That thing, as you so call it, is the last child to inherit the strong Namikaze traits, and Minato has named him his heir in his last moments. You do what you want with the Uzumaki fortune, but you will have no say in the Namikaze clan affairs from now on. I am the legal guardian to it until Naruto claims it. Now, I'll take my leave. I have a council meeting to attend to. You can leave the village anytime you wish. The sooner the better. Hiruzen said as left her in the room and stomped his way out. Hokage Tower *. Council Chambers *. Hiruzen walked into the sacred chambers to see all the clan heads already sitting on the right side and the civilian council to the left. The elders sat directly in front of his seat. He took his seat, with a softly snoring Naruto sleeping peacefully in his arms. 2 Anbu stood guard behind him. Hiruzen brushed his whisker marks just as Naruto snuggled in his chest, making Hiruzen smile. Homura cleared his throat. Hiruzen, all of us would like to know what became of the Kyuubi. He asked, the thought on everyone's mind, and everyone looked at him expectantly. The Kyuubi has been defeated, and the threat has passed. Minato used a forbidden jutsu to split and seal the Kyuubi. Hiruzen said as everyone sighed in relief, but Shikaku spoke up. Hokage-sama, Shikaku cut him off. You said he split and sealed the Kyuubi. What did he seal it into? He questioned. Everyone looked at Hiruzen while he cursed under his breath. Damn those Naras and their intelligence. I can't reveal Naruto's heritage to them. He would already have enough to deal with from external enemies after I reveal to them the truth of his burden. If his heritage is known too, then we might have to deal with many assassins and kidnappers from the inside. Iwa and Kumo might even wish to abduct or eliminate the last, true Namikaze heir. I'll keep it to myself until I reveal it, Naruto. Hiruzen decided inwardly. I'll just say Minato sealed it in his daughters, and that Naruto is an orphan with no ties to his parents. So many people died tonight, no one will ever suspect a thing. But I'll have him seen as the hero he is, Minato. He thought with a smile. Well, Minato split the Kyuubi into 3 parts. He sealed the yin and yang part of its chakra into his newborn twin daughters Narumi and Mito. Seeing that they had their mother's strong Uzumaki genes, and had a good chance at controlling it. But he had to seal its body and soul into a separate entity, for which he chose young Naruto. His parents died tonight during the attack, and Minato made it his last wish for Naruto to be seen as a hero, and I have full faith in his abilities in his sealing, and so should you. He spoke pointedly. But that was all he said before all hell broke loose from the civilian part of the council. They shouted for the demon to be killed, and their families be avenged. Hiruzen purposefully left out the part that the Kyuubi will gain back its chakra over time and that Naruto will become the true Jinchuriki of the 9 tails after some years, as per what Minato had told him about the mechanics of his seal in his last moments. He didn't want Danzo to be too interested in Naruto, and try and turn him into a weapon, as Minato had once feared. Hiruzen wanted to keep his burden a secret, but he knew if it came out later then it might even cause a civil war, as everyone would be after want Naruto's head. He suddenly let out his ki and every last one of them shut up. Naruto whimpered in his sleep, making Hiruzen tone it down a bit, and rocked him left and right before Naruto fell into his deep slumber again. If you fools kill Naruto, then the Kyuubi will be free. And then what? It will regain his chakra in a few years, and return to finish what it started. And this time, we will not have Minato to stop it. Hiruzen snapped, and the civilian council fell silent while the clan heads nodded tiredly, knowing full well that he was right. Hiruzen, where are the Jinchuriki with the chakra of the 9 tails? Danzo wondered as expected. I suggest that you let me take over their training and upbringing. I'll help them control their emotions better, and make them absolutely loyal to the village. He suggested calmly as suddenly Mebuki Haruno screeched, and everyone in the room winced. Yes, where are the princesses of the Uzumaki clan? She shrieked. They are the heroes of the village. I demand to know of their condition. She asked with a screech. Kushina will take them to the Uzumaki property in the fire capital. Hiruzen admitted bitterly. So as to keep them safe there under the protection of the daimyo. She will return after she has them trained well enough for them when the time of their genin exams is upon us. Hiruzen told her sourly. Danzo stood up, practically outraged. You can't allow that, Hiruzen. The Jinchuriki must stay close to the village, and the Hokage. They should be trained properly. We need to show our strength to the other villages in this moment of weakness. Also, I can train them to be strong and loyal to the village. Have her brought back this instant. He demanded, and Hiruzen sighed at the power-hungry old fool. To think he was once his friend, oh the irony. While that is true, Danzo, you yourself have clarified that we do not have the necessary forces to spare for their protection. They will be much more safe at the fire capital. Also, Kushina is best to train them, as I'm sure you know the reasons. Plus, they will return during the time of their graduation. What problem do you have with that? Hiruzen remarked offhandedly. Seeing everyone nod and agree except Mebuki, who kept screeching about keeping the princesses in the village, Danzo seethed at being outdone and losing his chance to have strong weapons under his control, but sat down in defeat. Hiruzen sighed inwardly in relief that Danzo had no interest in Naruto, seeing he had no chakra of the Kyuubi within him. He was practically useless to the man. Oh, how ironic, he thought to himself. Then they all asked what would he do about Naruto, and they said to lock him up in Anbu headquarters or send him off to a far-off island to be isolated or some other ridiculous ideas, mostly from the civilian council, and he instantly shut them up by leaking a bit of ki again. Thankfully, Naruto was too deep in sleep to notice it this time. Naruto will live a normal life and become a loyal shinobi of this village. Hiruzen declared with steel in his voice. I hereby declare that no one shall speak of the link between Naruto and the Kyuubi to anyone of the younger generation. This is an S-class secret, punishable by death, without trial. Hiruzen roared. Everyone fell silent seeing his furious expression. Hiruzen had to at least make sure that Naruto made some friends his age. Everyone hesitantly agreed, and talked about the damages incurred to the village, its forces and other political matters right until they called it a night 3 hours later. Hiruzen went back to the Hokage Tower to spend the night with young Naruto, and an aching back. He finally got in bed, and blissfully slept with little Naruto snuggling into his chest while he kept the boy tightly wrapped up in his arms. He was to be his grandson in everything but blood, Hiruzen thought to himself, and finally drifted off to sleep with a content smile. Naruto's soft snores sounded like purrs in Hiruzen's ears all through the night. Hiruzen was suffering a severe headache at the moment from doing all this paperwork throughout the night without even a wink of sleep. Last night, after the information of Naruto's secret was revealed to the village, he had been disturbed all night long by civilian after civilian telling him to either banish the demon, or kill him. Until Hiruzen had reminded them of the law in effect. Every single one of them had paled, and run off when Sarutobi had plucked out a gleaming kunai and threatened to implement his law then and there. Today, Hiruzen was patiently awaiting the arrival of his student, Jiraiya, alongside Kakashi Hatake, who Hiruzen had called through his toad summons to tell him of Naruto's condition, and to see if any one of them would like to keep Naruto's custody. Speaking of Naruto, Hiruzen had just had Anko take care of him and feed him. He was glad to see that the hyperactive Kunoichi looking so good with children. Plus, she was the only one he could ever trust with Naruto's care anyways. She knew the burden of carrying a curse, and respected the fourth Hokage above all else. As of now, Naruto was sleeping peacefully. The sight made Hiruzen smile, and he'd told Anko that she could leave and go rest for a few hours until he called for aid again. Instead of being glum, she seemed chum at the chance of spending some more time coddling baby Naruto. Seeing Naruto snoring away in those buxom mounds of heaven, Hiruzen had been envious of the boy for reasons he'd rather not admit. After she'd left, Hiruzen had opened up the letter that Minato had left in his care to read if certain conditions were met. And sadly, all of those conditions had been met just as Minato had once feared. Dear Hiruzen, if you are reading this letter, then I'm afraid my fears have come true. As I've already told you, of the 2 scrolls that I left for Naruto, this letter is meant for you, Naruto, and the eyes of elders of the Toad clan only. I have left you as the legal guardian of the Namikaze clan until Naruto inherits it. I know, if the conditions to read this letter have been met, then sadly, Naruto will lead a very lonely life. I fear that no one will want to be tied down to taking care of Naruto, much less adopt him. That is why, I want you to admit Naruto to the best orphanage that you can find, and pay for them from the Namikaze family account if need be. Tell Pa and Ma to make him the next Toad summoner after you tell him of his heritage. He will need their strength to protect himself in the future, for I fear the perpetrator of tonight's incident will return for his life. Also, it's a good news that Naruto won't suffer the curse of blindness caused by Mangekyo Sharingan because of him having the healing abilities of the Namikaze and the stamina and chakra of both the Senju and Uzumaki. Do not tell Jiraiya or anyone this fact, and make sure you tell Naruto about it once he is old enough to understand his burdens, and be there to explain how his eyes work. Help him master his eyes as they will in turn help him control Kyuubi's soul since I fear Kushina won't be there to train him, and he will need all the power he could conjure up to protect himself from the masked Uchiha who had invaded the village tonight. The Toads too will help him to control his power since they have the scrolls he will need to learn his powers. I do not want Jiraiya to adopt him because he will make up a silly argument on how Naruto is the child of the prophecy. Please have him raised as a child and not a tool, Sarutobi. I know he will wish to do so with Narumi and Mito as well, and I don't want Naruto to be burdened with such things at such young an age, and live a childhood that I could not. Try to keep my daughters away from the prophecy too, if you could. I want my children to have a normal childhood, and to have their innocence kept intact for as long as you possibly could. Protect him, if nothing else, Hiruzen, as a last favor to this dying father and friend. I leave my legacy in your hands, old friend. Hiruzen put down the letter, and took off his glasses. He clenched his clouded eyes shut, and held back his tears. He sealed the draft back into the scroll until the time came for Naruto to open it once more. For now though, Sarutobi walked over to Naruto's crib and smiled as he brushed his fingers on the baby boy's whiskers. Naruto purred in delight, making Hiruzen chuckle softly. It seemed as if they were quite sensitive. Suddenly, the window slid open, and Kakashi and Jiraiya walked in. I was waiting for you too, Hiruzen said, unimpressed. Come on in, he motioned them in. Both hopped in, and stood in front of the table. Hiruzen lit his pipe, and gazed out the window. So you retook the seat, Sarutobi sensei. The kid left his hat way too early, Jiraiya whispered mournfully. Hiruzen nodded in agreement. That he did, he agreed, still looking out the window. Sighing, Jiraiya, Hiruzen started. Minato has left a great burden upon my shoulders, a burden which Kushina does not wish to see reason to. He admitted, and Jiraiya looked at him confused. Hiruzen said nothing to elaborate, and pointed towards the crib where the soft snores of a baby resonated from. Both Kakashi and Jiraiya walked over to the crib, and couldn't help but gasp in shock. Sensei, Jiraiya gulped. Is this his son? Jiraiya stuttered. Hiruzen nodded in affirmative. Why is he here then? Jiraiya thundered. I thought Kushina gave birth to 2 daughters, not a son as well. She told me as such when I sent her a summon last night. But she told me that she was leaving today at dawn for the fire capital. If he is, in fact, her son, then why is he here? Jiraiya naturally had to ask. Hiruzen smiled sadly, and continued on gazing out the window. She blames him for the death of Minato, Jiraiya. Hiruzen didn't mince his words. She looks at like him as if he is the Kyuubi reborn. Kushina is looking for someone to blame and vent, and has sadly chosen little Naruto as her culprit. Last night, she disowned him, and even threatened to kill him. Now, Jiraiya, I wish to ask of you, will you adopt Naruto? Hiruzen dropped the bomb. I know that you have a spy network to manage, but we can set up a timetable for it. I can have someone I trust help you with little Naruto. So what do you say, Jiraiya? Will you accept him? Hiruzen asked hopefully. He honestly thought without a doubt that Jiraiya would accept the boy willingly to honor his apprentice's last wishes. I'm sorry, sensei. Jiraiya's apology formed a pit of ice in Hiruzen's stomach. The village needs my spy network more than ever now, and I am not exactly father material, you know. I like to travel, do research, and write my books. Plus, the great Toad Sage has given a new prophecy. Pa and Ma told me that just last night. It says, the powerful sapling born from two strong leaves shall lead the world to peace, and its enemies shall fear the look of his red eyes as he gazes upon them to protect what is precious to him. And I know for a fact that it has to be either Narumi, or Mito. They fit the description perfectly. And they will even have red eyes once they channel the fox's chakra, just like Kushina did. I'll have to put all my time into nurturing them, so being with Naruto will be difficult, you know. Jiraiya apologized sincerely. I hope you understand, sensei. The future of the world takes priority over the life of a single child, you of all people must understand. Jiraiya tried to make him see reason. Hiruzen didn't even bother turning around to face him as his heart broke in two at hearing his students' admissions. Minato, you really did see through all of their hearts beforehand, didn't you? Even I didn't know my own student's nature, and yet, you still saw right through him. Hiruzen thought sadly. I see, was all Hiruzen could say at the moment. Jiraiya was happy that his sensei was understanding his reasons. After all, the world did prioritize over Naruto, even though he did not like doing it. What will you do then, Kakashi? Hiruzen switched his words to the Jonin monotonously. Lord Third, Kakashi bowed his head. I want to return to the duties of the Anbu. I have to get over my grief of losing yet another person precious to me. Naruto looks too much like Sensei, and I won't have the time to look after him with my missions. But I promise, I'll watch him over him from the shadows, and even become his Jonin Sensei when he grows older. He promised. That's quite a ways away for now, Kakashi. Hiruzen remarked pointedly. Kakashi nodded, knowing full well what the man was trying to imply, that it is, sir. To be honest, after everything he'd heard, Hiruzen wasn't even surprised anymore. I understand, Hiruzen waved his hand dismissively. Both of you are dismissed. He dismissed them. I think you've heard everything. Hiruzen questioned seemingly no one in particular. Two small toads came out of the shadows of the wall, tapping their canes to show their displeasure over the matter. Yes, we did. Pa clipped, annoyed. I'll admit, I never expected Jiraiya boy to leave Naruto-chan just for our prophecy, and his disgusting habits. He has fallen in respect of the Toad's great elders. We came up to check on young Naruto-chan, but I never imagined that Kushina-chan would forsake her own child, even if it is grief that has clouded her eyes. Ma admitted somberly. Neither did I, Hiruzen sighed. The Leaf Village too has disrespected Minato-chan's wish for Naruto-chan to be seen as a hero. Pa said with steel in his voice. The leaf has fallen from the grace and honor it once used to hold, back in the days when Hashirama-chan and Tobirama-chan used to guide its reins. Ma spat. Hiruzen smiled, thinking of those times, and knowing that they were right. This really wasn't the same village anymore. Its founders would have been ashamed of what their vision became in wake of their deaths. What do you wish to do now? Hiruzen asked the two toads. They looked at each other, and nodded, We shall remove Jiraiya-chan from the Toad summoning contract, effective immediately. Pa tapped his cane decisively. He has fallen from the ways of our clan. We will make Naruto-chan our new summoner, and we shall pledge our loyalty to him and only him, not to the leaf. Bunta also said that he was excited to fight alongside the child, once he was older that is, and wanted to become his familiar. He wishes to introduce him to his sons too, Gamakichi, and Gamatatsu. We shall be loyal to the leaf so long as Naruto-chan intends to protect it, and no more. He declared his loyalties to the stunned Hokage. But the Toads have been allies of the leaf for, Hiruzen tried to protest. Ma interjected, the great Toad sage believes him to be the child of prophecy, and we do too. She added, Minato-chan entrusted us the key to his heir's seal, and asked us to give it to Naruto-chan whenever you deemed him ready. There are many things that Minato-chan left at Mt. Myoboku for him to inherit. We shall give it to the boy after he becomes aware of his heritage, she said in an iron voice. Pa and Hiruzen nodded in agreement to her words, but Hiruzen couldn't help but worry a little. The leaf had taken yet another severe loss in power by almost losing the only powerful battle summoning contract left in the village, if not for Naruto. The snake contract was with Orochimaru, with Anko only having a partial contract to them. And the slugs were loyal to the Senju and the Uzumaki only, and Hiruzen could only wonder how long the ears of Shikatsu Forest would remain oblivious to this truth. Kushina and Tsunade were the only summoners left, and they too were not active shinobi of the village. Hiruzen wondered if taking the seat had indeed been the right thing to do with all the power vacuums left in wake of Minato's death. Hiruzen looked at little Naruto with a smile, knowing full well the boy would be a thorn in his backside, and cause him a hell of a lot of paperwork when he grew up. He was already really important to the village as the last of the Namikaze, and the only summoner to the legendary Toad clan now as Jiraiya had been expelled from the contract. He thought about his student's reaction when he realized that his contract, on which he was so heavily reliant, was nullified. He watched silently as Pa and Ma walked up to Naruto's crib, and Pa picked him up. Naruto woke up from his sleep with a cute yawn, and gazed at the weird Toad with wide, droopy eyes as he tilted his head to the side. Pa held him in front of his face, both intently gazing into each other's eyes. Well, Naruto-chan, he settled him a bit more snugly in his arms, would you like to be the next Toad summoner? Pa asked him with a smile. Naruto laughed with a clap, thinking it was funny and hugged him. All of them chuckled in unison. I think that's a yes, isn't it, Sarutobi? Said Ma and Pa nodded. What say you, Sarutobi? Pa wondered. Hiruzen smiled. I think yes as well. Ma walked up to Naruto just as Pa finished slicing Naruto's little thumb a little, forcing it to bleed, and started writing his name, Naruto Namikaze, on the summoning scroll. He slapped a handprint over his scroll, and roughly smeared the print on the paper to make sure it was done right. Naruto sniffed a little from getting his thumb cut, and, as if on cue, Ma bashed Pa on his head while he yelled an, "Oi!" indignantly. You idiot, she thundered. You cut too deep. Look, you made him cry. She roared when Naruto sniffed again, and Ma plucked him up from the ground, and rocked and cooed him. Ah, Naruto-chan is a brave boy. Isn't he, isn't he? She cooed and the boy giggled, momentarily forgetting his pain while his thumb healed almost instantly. Hiruzen was wide-eyed at the speed with which it healed, as was Pa. It seemed that the Kyuubi gave him a healing factor. Pa had come to the same conclusion as Hiruzen had, and was equally shocked as well. He wished to ask what will become of little Naruto and who will look after him from here on out, however. What are you going to do about young Naruto's nurturing, Sarutobi? Pa wondered. Where will he live? Hiruzen sighed, and plopped down on his chair, feeling well beyond his years. I want to keep him with me, yes. But I have way too many duties now. Seeing their disapproving look. And even if I did want to keep him, the council would raise hell over it. They decided last night that none of the clans could adopt him in fear of them releasing the Kyuubi to gain power, and none of the civilians will adopt him for obvious reasons. So, that leaves only the orphanage. Hiruzen added to save himself some face. What of his accommodations? Ma asked. I will try and find him the best orphanage there is, and even pay them some extra money to keep him safe and well treated. I'll have Kakashi and my other Anbu check up on him from time to time. I made a law for people not to tell the younger generation of his burden, so that he may be able to make friends. I'll visit him as often as I could, but it will be difficult to take out any more time. After he is 6, I'll have him entered into the academy, after which he'll graduate at the recommended age of 12. That is what I have planned for now. His father made sure he would have the money to live well, and I'll give it to him monthly as a stipend until he claims his fortune in order to keep his identity under tight wraps. Hiruzen explained, and Pa and Ma nodded, satisfied. We too will check up on him regularly, they told Sarutobi. But we shall not reveal ourselves to him until the time is opportune. I wish you luck, Sarutobi, and we trust that you'll take care of our summoner. They asked him, and Hiruzen smiled. I'll do what I can. Hiruzen promised. Pa nodded, and tapped his cane as both he and Ma left in a puff of smoke. Hiruzen began checking through the files and various records of the orphanages in the village to try and find one with the best comforts for him to offer, but that issue was only secondary for now. Hiruzen needed to find a place where Naruto would be accepted, fully. He began going through file after file, rummaging through them, and eventually finding none that would fit his requirements completely. Sarutobi groaned. This was going to be a long day. It was the 10th of October, the day of the Kyuubi festival, and the whole village was filled with decorations and the morale was running his. In the streets, a small blonde-haired boy with light blue eyes and whisker marks on his face was walking, taking in the sights the festival had to offer. The boy is our hero Naruto. Naruto was running out the streets in joy. He came up to several stalls, played games, and ate several delicious things. The merchants were from different villages, so they didn't throw him out, or even talk to him rudely for that matter. Many of the villagers were glaring coldly at him, but the boy was too happy to notice. He was walking through the crowd when he was suddenly pushed into an alley, and Naruto looked up to see 3 men with strange white eyes looking at him, probably blind, while Naruto got up and dusted himself off. Can I help you, mister? He asked him politely, though the man grew furious. Yes. You can die for me, demon, he yelled. They ran towards the blonde with a kunai, and Naruto took off in fright. They chased him as he weaved, ducked and ran through alleys, and then saw a fence in front of him. He jumped on a wooden box, then on a big closed dumpster, and then over the fence. Naruto turned to see the men and how far they were, but watched in horror when they threw a slew of 10 kunai knives at him, and Naruto felt fear clutch his chest. How was he supposed to dodge them midair? Naruto's heart rate accelerated, blood pressure increased, and he unconsciously channeled a huge pulse chakra to the veins behind his eyes. As soon as his eyes were flooded with enough chakra, the world around him grew sharper. He could even make out the wings of insects flying in the air, and saw that the kunai knives that were too fast for him to decipher, now appeared to be moving towards him in slow motion. Confused, Naruto grabbed onto one of them in midair, and started deflecting the rest of them. He managed to deflect 7 of them, but wasn't able to finish the last 2 even though he could argue that they were a lot slower than he was, one of which lodged itself in his right shoulder, the other in his left thigh. Naruto howled in pain, and fell down. He crawled back into the corner of the dead end to the alley and brought his knees to his chest defensively. He curled up into a ball, knowing he couldn't escape now. Naruto whimpered, and waited for the pain to come just as they started kicking his small body, and his cries for help were drowned in the loud music adorning the festival behind this hell. Did you see his eyes? One of them exclaimed as he launched another kick. Yes, seems as if he has the Sharingan. Is he an Uchiha? The other one asked. No one has activated the Sharingan at so young an age. The demon must have stolen them from a corpse. Serves him right that we are here to witness its true colors, the third one devised, and they started kicking him even more viciously. Naruto could do nothing but take it all. It hurt so much, but why were they hitting him? He wasn't a demon, was he? His mind closed in on itself as he numbed out from the pain, and fell unconscious. But they continued beating him, not bothered by his poor state in the slightest. They wanted to kill him slowly, and woefully become the silent heroes of the village that avenged their savior on the night of his noble sacrifice. Now then, let's finish this, said the first man, and was about to stab Naruto in the head before he was stopped by a wave of killer intent. Turning around, they saw an Anbu wearing a weasel mask standing behind them. From the mask, a fully developed Sharingan could be seen, and all three tomos were spinning dangerously at the villagers. What is going on here? Asked the Anbu. Well, you see, Anbu-san, we were finishing what the Yondaime started. You should take the last hit as he stole your clan's Sharingan, said another villager. As soon as he said that, the Anbu weaved through hand seals at lightning pace and shouted, "Fire style! Great fireball jutsu!" A large fireball escaped his lips and completely engulfed the villagers, killing them at the spot. The Anbu then rushed to Naruto, who was beginning to wake up. Looking up, he saw the Anbu use Sharingan and said, "You got very cool eyes, mister." The Anbu looked at Naruto and gasped. A boy no older than 4 years old had activated the Sharingan. He is the youngest person ever to awaken the dojutsu. Naruto then turned to look at the Anbu with fearful eyes and said, "Are you going to hit me as well? If so, please kill me. That way I can go to my daddy and live with him." As he said that, he fell unconscious again, this time barely holding on to his life. The Anbu immediately picked him up and rushed to the hospital. Upon reaching the hospital, he shouted, "Nurse, it's an emergency." A nurse quickly rushed but stopped when she saw who the Anbu was holding and sneered. "Take that thing away, we don't treat the likes of him." As soon as she said that, a wave of intense killer intent filled the whole hospital, causing all of the staff members to hold a collective breath. The Anbu then said, "I am going to ask you once more, treat him before I kill you and your families." As soon as he said that, an indignant yell came, "You can't do that." "Oh, but I can. According to the law of the third Hokage, any prejudice against Naruto, any mention of the word demon in public will be executed without trial. Now, would you want that?" the Anbu calmly asked. The staff then shook their heads and took Naruto to an operation theater. The Anbu stopped releasing his killer intent and said, "Neko, go get Inu Taicho and inform of what happened to the Hokage." Another Anbu with a cat mask nodded before disappearing into the shadows. A few minutes, the Hokage and another Anbu with silver hair and a dog mask rushed to where the Anbu was standing and said, "Weasel, report." "Hi, Hokage-sama. I was taking my normal perimeter check when I saw that Naruto-kun was being beaten senseless by a mob of villagers. I immediately asked them what was going on, to which they said, and I quote, 'We are finishing what the Yondaime started by killing the demon.' I immediately set a giant fireball jutsu on them, killing all of them. I then went up to Naruto-kun and brought him here, where first he was refused treatment, but after a little convincing they began to treat him. After that I sent word for you and Inu Taicho to come here," said Weasel. "Anything else happened?" asked the Inu Anbu. Weasel sighed and motioned both his captain and the Hokage to come closer before whispering in a very low voice, "It seems that he has activated the Sharingan. I saw it clearly, he had the Sharingan with one tomo in each of his eyes." Weasel then hardened his gaze and said, "What exactly is happening, Hokage-sama?" Hiruzen sighed before saying, "He is the Yondaime's son. Be sure to not tell this piece of information to anyone. It also includes the fact about his Sharingan. If I hear you telling it to anyone, I will kill you. This is an SS-ranked secret. Do I make myself clear?" "Hi, Hokage-sama," said Weasel as the door to Operation Threader finally opened and a doctor walked out with a big frown plastered on his face. "How is he, doctor?" asked Hiruzen. "He is stable. We prevented him from getting any permanent damage." Hus tenant is also healing him quicker than most. Though I question as to why some of the villagers would beat up the kid so young so badly, replied the doctor. Can I see him? Asked Hiruzen. That you may, he should be up in a couple of hours, replied the doctor as he turned and left the three. I want both of you to watch the boy in the room. I'm going to the office to set some shadow clones. I will be back in 1.5 hours, said Hiruzen to both the Anbu, who wordlessly nodded and disappeared into the shadows. 2 hours later, hospital room. Asterisk. Naruto's eyes fluttered open and he sat up and yawned before looking to the side and spotting one Hiruzen Sarutobi looking at him with worry and sadness. How are you feeling, my boy? Does it hurt anywhere? Asked Sarutobi as he moved and sat beside Naruto. I am feeling fine, old man, just a little sore. By the way, can you tell me why do the villagers hate me so much? Asked Naruto. I do not know, Naruto, said Hiruzen. It hurt him a lot to see the blonde ball of sunshine so quiet. It seemed as if a part of his innocence had left him completely. Gigi, am I demon or a monster? Asked Naruto, his voice barely above a whisper. Naruto, look at me. You are in no way a monster, you understand me. I am the Hokage, the most knowledgeable person in the village. If I say you are not a monster, then you are not a monster, said Hiruzen, to which Naruto smiled a genuine smile and said, Thank you, old man. Could you please ask Mr. Anbu to come out? I want to thank him for rescuing me, said Naruto as he looked down shyly. Naruto, how do you know he is here? Asked Sarutobi with a shocked expression. I don't really know, I just felt him here. And I recognized his presence from back when he saved me, said Naruto with a shrug. Unbelievable, he is a natural born censor. He really is your son, Minato, thought Sarutobi. You can come out, Weasel, said Hiruzen. The masked Anbu came out and said, Hello, Naruto-kun. Thank you for helping me, Anbu-san, you are the best after Gigi, said Naruto. The weasel Anbu only nodded his head before disappearing in a puff of smoke. Old man, during that beating for a few moments I noticed things slowing down. Like I could see their movements as if it was moving in slow motion, asked Naruto with cute tilt of his head to the left. Hiruzen couldn't help but smile. It seemed that the boy had not lost all of his innocence. He then said, that my boy was your Kekkei Genka that you inherited from your dad and awakened it. With another tilt of his head, Naruto said, What is a Kekkei Geki, old man? Chuckling, Hiruzen said, It's Kekkei Genka, Naruto. They are basically abilities that a person inherits from his parents. You got yours from your father. Immediately as he said that, he inwardly cursed he had dug himself into a difficult position. Old man, you knew my father. Can you tell me who he was? Did he love me? Naruto asked in a quickfire fashion. Hiruzen could hear the desperation in Naruto's voice. The people had treated the boy so badly that he thought no one loved him. Yes, Naruto, I knew who your father was. He was one of the Leaf's greatest heroes ever. I can't tell you about him right now as he had countless enemies who will leave it at nothing to harm you. And yes, Naruto, he loved you dearly. I hadn't seen any father to be so excited about raising his son. You should have seen him, said Hiruzen with a smile, hoping that Naruto won't push further. All right, old man. But you will tell me eventually, won't you? Asked Naruto. Of course I will, Naruto. Say, do you want to be a ninja? That way you'll be following the footsteps of your father and the Yondaime, said Hiruzen. Yes, I want to be a ninja. I will surpass the Yondaime and make my father proud of me. Then I will take your hat and become the strongest of all Hokages, said Naruto with foxy grin. I am sure you will, Naruto. Now get some rest, I will take you back to the orphanage tomorrow, said Hiruzen, and immediately he saw Naruto's smile turn into a frown. And once again he had a feeling of dread build up in his stomach. But Gigi, the orphanage kicked me out a week ago. They said that now that I am old enough I can live alone, said Naruto. Hiruzen sighed tiredly at that and said, It's okay, Naruto, you should get to bed. We will figure something out about your accommodation and training tomorrow. Good night, he said as Naruto smiled and nodded before rolling over and sleeping. Once outside the room, Hiruzen said, Inu, go visit the orphanage, get all the wardens to Ibiki and have him question them. If anyone is even remotely involved in hurting Naruto, execute them without trial. Hi Hokage-sama, said Inu as he disappeared in a puff of smoke. I am getting too old for this shit, said Hiruzen as he sighed and made way to his home. The next day after being discharged from the hospital, Naruto made his way to the Hokage's office. On the way he felt people glaring at him and once again wondered what did he do to deserve this treatment. Was he really a demon? Quickly shaking his head, he remembered what his Gigi said and was sure that he wasn't a demon. Reaching the Hokage building, he entered and made his way towards the Hokage's office. On his way he stopped to greet the Hokage's secretary, who he saw as an older sister figure. Ohio Mina Nichan, said Naruto as he walked up to her. The secretary turned to him before giving him a warm smile and then picking him up in her arms. She then said, "Ah, it's my cute little Naru-chan, what are you doing here?" Gigi told me to come to him after I got discharged from the hospital, Naruto replied cheerfully. Wait, why were you in the hospital? Asked Mina, her voice laced with curiosity and concern. Naruto then recounted all of the events that had occurred over the past week. When he was finished, Mina merely nodded and set him down before saying, well, Naru-chan, you should get going to the Hokage. After all, today is the day you will be starting your training to be a ninja. Of course I am, and I will surpass the Yondaime Hokage and make my dad proud, Dadbeo, said Naruto as he thrust his small fist into the air. Mina chuckled as she heard the irony of his statement and sent him off to the Hokage. Upon reaching the office, he blasted the door open and launched himself at the Hokage while shouting, Gigi. Hiruzen was surprised by the sudden dynamic entry of the small bundle of sunshine, but nonetheless opened his arms and hugged him. After a few minutes they broke apart. Hiruzen gave him his usual patented grandfather smiles while ruffling the blonde's head, whereas Naruto only grinned foxily. Since you are here, I presume you are ready to get your things and find your new living quarters? Asked Hiruzen, to which Naruto excitedly nodded and bounced, causing Hiruzen to chuckle. This little blonde just knew how to make his day better. They left the office and made way to a shop. On the way, Naruto was faced with the usual glares, but all of those were immediately put down when they saw that the Hokage was with Naruto. Finally reaching a store named Dragon Lair, Hiruzen led Naruto in and said, well, Naruto-kun, go see what you like, we will get it for you. Nodding in excitement, Naruto ran off in the shop. So Hiruzen, another permanent customer for me, asked a voice. Turning around, Hiruzen could see a man in his mid-40s smiling at him. You got that right. He is an orphan whom the normal populace do not seem to like. I am sure you've already guessed his identity. Because of this, I want you to be the one who provides him with whatever he needs. Books, clothes, equipment and other ninja-related things. Can I trust you to do that, Kaiza? Asked Hiruzen to the now named shopkeeper. I really have no problem with that, but I don't really see how an orphan who is going to live on stipends will be able to afford things from my shop. No offense, said Kaiza. Oh, you don't have to worry about money, just put it on this accounts tab, said Hiruzen as he handed Kaiza a piece of paper. After reading the paper, Kaiza's eyes widened before he smirked and said, you just like dropping the bombs, don't you, Hiruzen? I don't know what you're talking about, Hiruzen replied in an innocent voice, causing Kaiza to chuckle. Alright, I agree. Though if the kid is anything like his old man, I doubt he'll need my guidance above me providing him with supplies, said Kaiza, to which Hiruzen nodded. Both of them looked at Naruto before Kaiza turned serious and asked, I am well aware of what his mother did, when will you tell him? Sighing, Hiruzen said, I don't know, old friend. I am hoping to reveal everything to him once he becomes Chunin. I understand that, but what if he somehow manages to awake his chakra chains? We know his chakra capacity will be massive, adding the density of the Namikaze in it. I have little doubt he will activate those chains, said Kaiza. I have little doubt that he will. But we will cross that bridge when that time comes, said the professor as Kaiza nodded. Now then Kaiza, I need some books on chakra theory, chakra control, some basic D and C rank jutsus, one on physical exercises, a full starting kit on Fuinjutsu and its corresponding beginner's level 1 book, and finally one on shuriken jutsu. I will give him his father's notes on Sharingan and his father's personal taijutsu style so we have that covered, said Hiruzen, to which Kaiza nodded and went to get the asked material. Anything else? Asked Kaiza as came back with the merchandise. Yes, I want several sets of practice kunai and shurikens, replied Hiruzen, to which Kaiza nodded and disappeared again and returned with the sets. Now then let's go see what the little tyke is up to. I hope he has good choice on clothes. I hate for him to get his mother's love for orange, said Kaiza, to which Hiruzen chuckled and nodded. Making their way to the shop they saw that Naruto was holding a blue shirt, a blank Anbu trouser and was currently looking for a jacket. Oi Gaki, what are you looking for? Asked Kaiza as he gave Naruto a warm smile. It was at this moment that Naruto's shy side began to show and he looked down and said, Ito, I was looking for a jacket that would go well with this shirt and pant, he said slowly. Kaiza smiled before ruffling the boy's head affectionately and said, Wait here, I know just what you need. He then went to the storeroom before collecting a jacket and making his way back to Naruto. Once he was back he said, Alright Gaki, go to the try room and try on your new clothes, let's see how do they look. Naruto nodded with a smile before moving to the try room. So how did you find the boy? Asked Hiruzen as he came up from the back. He is just like his father was as a kid. It's not even funny, said Kaiza. However, before they could continue talking, Naruto stepped out of the room with his new clothes. The jacket he was wearing was dark blue in color with a lightning symbol on its back. It was the symbol of the forgotten Namikaze clan. Damn, I never thought I'd see that symbol again, said Hiruzen. Well, get used to it because you are going to be seeing it around, replied Kaiza. How do I look, Gigi? Asked Naruto. Damn kid, if you keep going at the rate you are, you will be a lady killer when you grow up, said Kaiza with a perverted smile. Naruto, being the smart 4-year-old he was, tilted his head and innocently asked, What's a lady killer? Both the men face faulted and covered it with a few coughs before Hiruzen said he would tell Naruto when he grew older. To which the boy nodded. Hiruzen and Naruto then paid for all his merchandise before it was sealed into a scroll. They then left to a scroll. Now then Naruto, let's get some food before I take you to your new home, okay? Said Hiruzen, to which Naruto nodded. They made their way to a stall named Ichiraku Ramen. He sent Naruto in before turning around and saying, Neko, Tori. Both the Anbu appeared before him and bowed, waiting for orders. Tell Sparrow to head to the training ground behind the Hokage monument and create his best house over there. Also take this money and get good furniture, food and utilities in it. Tell him to make it equal to a 3-bedroom apartment, said Hiruzen, to which both the Anbu nodded. They took the money given and disappeared in a puff of smoke. Moving back inside the stall, he arrived to find Naruto sitting on a girl's lap as he ate ramen. The girl was cooing at his cuteness as he ate. He sweat dropped at the sight before saying, Hey Tuki. As he said that, a fat man appeared at the counter and said, Ah, Hokage-sama, how may I help you today? Ah, nothing special Tuki, I was just showing this place to Naruto over there. He seems to be enjoying himself, said Hiruzen as he fondly looked over to Naruto, who had a look of bliss on his face as he ate the ramen. If the boy is anything like his parents, I am sure I will be set for life, said Tuki, which caused Hiruzen to abruptly turn his neck to face the chef. How do you know his heritage? Hiruzen whispered urgently. Tuki snorted and replied in an equally low voice, blonde hair, sapphiric blue eyes, addiction to ramen and a verbal tick of, Dadbao, if he isn't the son of Minato and Kushina, I'll give my shop away. Hiruzen gave a low sigh before saying, You are right in your analysis Tuki, however you can't reveal that information to anyone. It's a double S-rank secret. Tuki nodded before frowning. He then said, Why isn't he with Kushina? I know she left for the capital 4 years ago. Hiruzen gave a tired sigh and proceeded to tell Tyuki what had happened. To say Tyuki was livid would have been an understatement. He was growling before he took a sharp intake of breath and said, "Don't worry, I won't tell him, and I'll also provide him with food. I'll alter my recipes a little so as to give him the proper nutrition he needs, since I doubt he'll be allowed to eat anywhere else." Hiruzen nodded at that and both turned to Naruto, who was currently eating his fifth bowl of miso ramen. After paying and bidding the father-daughter duo goodbye, they were making way to the Hokage monument when Naruto spotted the library. Pulling on Hiruzen's robes, he said, "Nay Gigi, what's that?" as he pointed to the library. "That, Naruto, is a place where books are kept for the public to read. Konoha Library is one of the best in the elemental nations, having a large variety of books and topics. Do you want to go see it?" asked Hiruzen after his explanation. Naruto bobbed his head up and down, eager to go see the library. Entering the library, Hiruzen made his way to the librarian and said, "Good day, Aoyomi." The librarian looked up and smiled before saying, "How may I help you on this fine day, Hokage-sama?" "Well, I wanted to let you know that Naruto will be occasionally coming to read here, and I want you to help him whenever he is looking for something. I trust there won't be any issues," replied Hiruzen as he emphasized on the word trust. The librarian, picking up on the underlying threat, quickly nodded. Smiling, Hiruzen turned to Naruto and said, "Well, that's that, Naruto. You can come here to read whenever you feel like it." "Yada. Thanks a lot, Gigi, you are the best, Dadbayo," said Naruto as he bounced up and down, causing Hiruzen to chuckle and the librarian to look at him strangely. With that, both Naruto and Hiruzen left and started climbing the Hokage mountain. After reaching the top and walking into the woods for a while, they reach a large ground, and near the edge of it is a decent-sized house was built. As they reached it, Hiruzen said, "Well, go in, Naruto, I had this built specifically for you." Naruto nodded excitedly before running into the house, causing Hiruzen to chuckle at his boundless energy. Following Naruto inside, he waited in the living room for Naruto to finish seeing his new place before giving him his new materials. A few minutes Naruto came and launched himself at Hiruzen. He was crying while he shouted, thank you, Gigi, you are the only one there for me." Smiling back, Hiruzen hugged the boy back and rubbed his back soothingly. After a few minutes, when Naruto calmed down, Hiruzen unsealed the things they bought and began explaining to Naruto what to do. "Naruto, the first thing I want you to do for your training is to start reading all the books we bought today, and follow what they say. Also, I am going to give your father's notes on the Sharingan and his personal taijutsu style. And another scroll which has several non-elemental jutsus inside. How that scroll will only open after you have completed the both on chakra control. Any questions?" "No, Gigi, I understand what you said, though I want to ask you, what does it mean to be a ninja?" asked Naruto curiously. Hiruzen was quiet for a moment. He knew that his answer could base what sort of ninja Naruto would become. It was time to mold him just as his senseis had molded him into one of the bearers of the will of fire. To be a ninja means to be ready to make sacrifices, to protect what you hold dear, and to be the hope for others when all seems lost. In Konoha, apart from all that I have mentioned, it also means to carry the will of fire," replied Hiruzen, knowing that his point had been made. "I understand, Gigi, but what is this will of fire?" asked Naruto with a curious tilt of his head. "The will of fire is a long-standing tradition on which this village was built. It states that the entire village is like a large family unit, and every Konoha shinobi with the will of fire loves, believes, cherishes, and fights to protect the village, as previous generations had done before them. Both your father and Yondaime had very strong will of fires which enabled them to protect the village on many occasions," Hiruzen replied with a fond smile. Naruto was quiet for a while before he looked, his eyes blazing with determination. "Gigi, I have changed my goal. It was first to surpass both my old man and the Yondaime so that the villagers recognize me as someone. Now I will still become the strongest Hokage, but I want to protect the villagers and earn their love and respect." Hiruzen smiled at the boy before ruffling his hair and leaving. As he walked back to the office, he couldn't help but smile. The will of fire burns strongly in him. He will indeed become the best one day, thought Hiruzen as he disappeared into the air. Time skip 1 year. It had been a whole year since Naruto began his training. During the year he had gotten the leaf balancing exercise down completely and was halfway through the rock balancing exercise. He had worked through the basic offensive katas of his hummingbird taijutsu style and had managed to reach 2 tomos for his Sharingan. He had reached the level courtesy of yet another serious attempt on his life. And for once in his life he was truly traumatized. Flashback no jutsu. He was walking down the streets after the sun had set, and was going to his apartment while ignoring the glares they shot his way. Suddenly, out of nowhere, Naruto was pulled into an alley and he fell down on his back. Regaining his bearings, Naruto saw 3 people donning the leaf's forehead protectors and flak jackets surrounding his way out the alley. Naruto's stomach dropped in dread when they pulled out kunai knives at him, and their smiles were downright evil. He had shivers running down his spine in fright at the vulnerable situation he found himself in. Naruto got up, and dashed through an opening, zigzagging his way down the alleyways while the 3 men followed hot on his tail. Naruto knew they could have caught him by now if they so desired, being trained shinobi and all, but were probably enjoying the thrill of the chase. They were giving him some time, at the very least. Naruto tried to run even quicker when the men chuckled right behind him, apparently amused from his lame attempts at escaping them. Naruto suddenly came to an abrupt stop when he saw the alley come to an end, and all he had ahead of him was a wall. A dead end. Naruto turned around just as the men turned around the corner and took a step back, then another, and another when his back hit the wall. The shinobi began laughing at his miserable face when Naruto's back hit the wall and his eyes misted over with unshed tears. A lone tear rolled down his cheek when the men took out shurikens, not the practice one he was used to seeing, but the real deal. Without any hesitation or remorse, they chucked a volley of them towards him. 2 shurikens lodged themselves in his right thigh and one in his left, another once in each of his forearms, and a vicious scream in agony tore through his throat. Naruto fell down to his knees, whimpering in pain while they laughed at his misery. How the mighty have fallen, one of them taunted. So, how does it feel to bear the pain that you inflicted on so many other humans, Kyubi? Exclamation mark. We know that we can't kill you or you'll regain your strength and be free off your bonds, but we can torture your vessel and break you from the inside out. Don't worry, you'll soon be numb from the pleasure we'll inflict upon you. Why? Naruto whimpered dizzily. Why do you people keep doing this to me? What have I ever done to you? What did you do, you say, Kyubi? They sneered furiously. You killed so many of our villagers, and now you have the gall to ask what you did. And to top it all of, you have the guts to join the academy to regain your strength. We'll make this a night to remember. As soon as those words were said, Naruto curled up into a ball and prepared himself for the pain he knew was coming. No one noticed his cerulean blue pools bleed red when they were beating, kicking and stabbing him on all his non-fatal points. Naruto didn't know how long it continued for as his body grew number and his whimpers turned incoherent, all the while pleading if someone would save him. At the Hokage office, Hiruzen, having gone through a long council meeting, the point of which he still had trouble comprehending, was annoyed at being pointlessly held back for so long. They were arguing and asking pointless things off of him that, in his honest opinion, were beyond ridiculous. Moreover, he still had to go and complete all the pending paperwork that must have piled up on his desk in his absence. He sighed and ran a hand through his hair as his back hit the leather of his chair. He inked his brush and started scribbling away at the stack of folders. He must have been at it for hours since the sun was beginning to set in the horizon, Hiruzen realized tiredly. The thought of not being able to go see Naruto for congratulating the boy on making the cut for the academy saddened him. But he promised himself that tomorrow, at Ichiraku's, he would treat the boy and listen to all his babbles for the entire evening. Hiruzen had just about finished on his train of thoughts when Kakashi came striding in the door, an act that made Hiruzen grow a bit confused. Mission accomplished. Hokage-sama. Kakashi sighed lazily, further confusing Sarutobi. What mission is that, Kakashi? He questioned as if the masked Jonin had grown a second head. I don't remember assigning you any missions. Weren't you supposed to be watching over Naruto tonight? He asked with a hint of worry while Kakashi looked at him perplexed. But, Hokage-sama, the elders sent 2 ANBUs saying you were busy in a meeting. Hiruzen blinked, caught off guard. Plus, this mission required my immediate attention. They even told me that they had assigned someone else to watch over Naruto while I was away. Hiruzen gulped thickly. Kakashi, I never issued any missions of importance that might have need of your specific skill set today. He admitted with a dry throat. And as for the council meeting, it was a useless gathering of civilians that really had no point in me attending. What was this mission you were on anyways? He asked dismally. I was told to watch a specific part of the village wall. There had been a possibility for a breach of security. But it was most likely a fluke, as everything was fine according to the barrier team. Coincidentally, there was no point in me tending to the mission as well. Kakashi's words furthered Hiruzen's worries. Hiruzen's and Kakashi's minds simultaneously began connecting dots. The useless council meeting summoned by the elders and the civilian council, Kakashi's fake mission, absolutely no breach in security, the Anbu detail. Hiruzen stood up. Kakashi, his voice turned desperate. Please tell me that you made sure someone was assigned to protect Naruto while you were gone, didn't you? He asked uncertainly. Kakashi mechanically shook his head, his lone eye widening as he too finished connecting the dots. Hurriedly, Hiruzen took out his crystal ball and desperately tried to locate Naruto. A few moments later, the crystal all locked onto his signature and an image became clear. Hiruzen, blood ran cold. He stood up abruptly as 3 Anbu came in front of his desk and Kakashi stood by their sides, all 4 looking ready for the kill. Hiruzen vanished in a tempest of flames, everyone else followed suit and rushed in the same direction with only one thought in mind: let us make it in time. Meanwhile, in the alleyway, it must have at least 4 hours since his torture began, and the beating was still going on. Naruto's body had fallen completely numb a while ago, and the numbness kept increasing as the pain was finally becoming too much for him bear. But Naruto was being forced to remain conscious, since the attacks being inflicted on him weren't allowing him to fall unconscious. The attackers were now getting pretty tired and annoyed as well. Hey, one of them heaved. He's hurt and everything, but not broken like we were ordered to. What should we do? One of them asked as another one of them smirked. I have an idea, he suggested. After this, the QB will have a hard time staying sane, much less become a threat to the village, he promised. The other 2 looked at him, intrigued as he started to tear apart the little blonde bundle's clothes in tatters. The others got the gist of what he was about to do and smirked themselves. Naruto, meanwhile, mutely whimpered as his clothes were torn apart, and he tried to think just what it was that they were planning to do with him. Was there even something that could be worse than this? Finally, when he was in nothing but his undergarments, the man who had suggested this plan started to undo his pants. Naruto clenched his eyes shut and wordlessly waited for whatever pain was about to come. This was the scene Hiruzen, Kakashi and the Anbu walked into. They all had their eyes widened at what the perpetrators were thinking of doing to the boy, and when they heard the 2 men standing on the side, laughing, Hiruzen lost it. He threw a kunai at the man who was undoing his pants jugular, who dropped dead without a sound while the 2 other fell to their knees from the killing intent he unleashed. They were terrified at being caught, sure, but were thinking of the consequences that it would lead them to. Anbu, Hiruzen barked. The 3 Anbu behind him stiffened. Orders, Hokage-sama. Take these bastards to Ibiki. Tell him everything that has occurred in the alley, word for word, and tell him that he has a week to play with them as he sees fit. Especially tell Anko what they were about to do. I'll talk to them later when they are done getting details out of them, and then I will plan their most painful execution, personally, and have them disgraced in front of the whole shinobi forces before being sentenced. Dismissed. He bellowed, and the Anbu took the two alive, whimpering, and begging shinobi away. Kakashi burned the corpse right then and there, and the both of them walked over to Naruto slowly and steadily so as to not alarm the frightened boy who had tucked himself in a corner to get out of harm's way. He was curled up in a tiny ball, holding the two kunai knives he had pulled out of his own thighs, both of which bled profusely. He was shaking, trembling in fear, but he kept a little guard up. The thing that surprised the Kakashi the most were Naruto's eyes. His usual deep blue cerulean pools now bled red as two tomos circled in his right eye and a single one in his left. Naruto barely managed croaked out some words, his body still trembling uncontrollably. Don't come any closer. He warned them as he kept up his shaking hands pointed at Hiruzen threateningly. Tears streamed down Hiruzen's own cheeks as he focused his attention on the terrified child. The shock of his unsealed eyes was nothing to Hiruzen at the moment compared to the iciness in the frightened words he'd just heard. Hiruzen continued walking closer, slowly with his hands up, while Kakashi held himself back, not wanting to scare the child even more than he already was. It's all right, Naruto, Hiruzen cooed softly. No one is going to hurt you anymore. It's me, your old man, don't you remember me, Naruto-kun? He asked soothingly. Naruto cried even harder, his kunai still held up in front of him. Please don't hurt me, Naruto sniffled. I'll go, and I'll never come back. Just, please, don't hit me anymore. It hurts too much. Please, leave me alone. I wanna die and go see my father the old man told me about. He watches over me from above. Please go, I'll kill myself, I promise. Please don't hurt me anymore, he choked out. Involuntary tears flowed through the adults' faces at hearing what the boy had just admitted. It was too much for Hiruzen's heart seeing the amount of trauma Naruto was presently under. It was so much that he wasn't even recognizing him. Hiruzen moved like lightning when Naruto pulled the kunai to his throat and snatched it away in a single, slick motion. The kunai was discarded aside and Hiruzen wrapped his arms around the boy, who struggled coarsely at first, but then hugged him back when Hiruzen's familiar, welcoming scent hit his nose and he cried in his chest. Shish. Hiruzen hushed the boy. It's all right, Naruto, you're fine. I'll take care of everything, you'll be better in no time, now calm down. He whispered comfortingly and smiled when the boy's crying trickled down, and he finally fell unconscious from sheer exhaustion. Hiruzen stood up with the boy in his arms, turning to Kakashi, he nodded and both vanished in a leaf shushin. Flashback no Jutsu Kai. Naruto had to stay in the hospital for 2 weeks before he was allowed to leave. Hiruzen had been worried about how this incident would affect Naruto and his loyalty to the village. However, his fears were unfounded when Naruto told him that he wouldn't be able to look his father in the eye if he gave up so easily. He said, "You said it yourself, Gigi. I have inherited the will of fire from my dad. I will do any and everything in my power to protect those who he died protecting. I will carve my own path and make him proud." He finished with a foxy grin showing that he was alright. However, Hiruzen wasn't known as the professor for nothing. He immediately saw that Naruto had put on a mask and it would be very hard getting through to him. Damn you villagers. You have taken away the last bit of innocence of a child. As he thought that, he silently let out a few tears before looking up to the sky and thinking, I am sorry Minato, I failed you. After the incident, Naruto had once again pushed himself into training and was now reading more advanced notes on the Sharingan and was practicing a few moves that came with it. He had worked through the basics of Shuriken Jutsu and had developed a good aim. As a well-done gift, Hiruzen had gifted Naruto his very first jutsu scroll. It was called the Shadow Shuriken Clone Jutsu and it caused a single projectile to be multiplied depending upon the chakra used. Needless to say, Naruto took it in like a dry sponge to water. It took him a month to completely master the jutsu and after that he managed to derive 3 jutsus from it. He created the Shadow Kunai Clone Jutsu, Shadow Giant Shuriken Jutsu, and finally the multiple Shadow Giant Shuriken Jutsu. Needless to say, Hiruzen was very impressed and even added the 3 jutsus he created under his name to the Konoha Jutsu library. They were ranked as C ranks. Naruto, finding solace in ninjutsu, asked if he could learn any more jutsus, only to be put down by Hiruzen, who said he was only 5 and the arsenal he had right now was good enough. Another thing that happened was Naruto and Hiruzen decided to put a seal on Naruto's eyes that would allow him to use the Sharingan, but it would still show his eyes to be the usual blue they were. Over the year, Naruto had developed a friendly relationship with the librarian, who, after meeting the blonde several times, quickly saw that he was in no way Kyuubi but was a victim of his own circumstance. She spent time with him and taught him things like cooking, maths, and manners. Needless to say, the blonde couldn't stop grinning when he knew he had another person out there who cared for him. For his second year of training, he had decided to master the basic defensive katas of his taijutsu style, add his jutsus in it to make it more effective. To master the rock balancing exercise and also gain some ground in the tree walking exercise. Then to improve his control on his Sharingan using his father's notes, which were quite detailed on the exercises needed to improve his control over his eyes. Halfway through the second year, Naruto had finally started getting his first piece of appreciation. It had happened during the kidnapping incident staged by Kumo. They had almost successfully kidnapped the heiress of the Hyuga clan Hinata Hyuga and the heiress of the Uchiha clan Sayuri Uchiha. Strongest of the 5 villages. My ass, their defense is so lax they didn't even notice me entering their compounds and kidnapping these brats, thought the Kumo Jonin as he made way to his exit point. It was at this moment that the sack he was holding started moving and muffled cries could be heard from it. Giving the sack a violent shake, he harshly whispered, "Quit your whining or I'll kill you." The voices were reduced to whimpers. The Kumo Jonin was about to restart running when he was interrupted by 10 kunai landing right in front of him. He stopped and looked up to see a blonde kid no older than 5 glaring down on him. "Get out of my way, kid. I may let you live if you leave without making any noise," sneered the Kumo Jonin. "Oh, I'll leave all right, but only after drop the bag you are carrying," Naruto replied with a strong voice. "Oh well, I'll just have to kill you," said the Kumo Jonin as he threw 4 kunai at Naruto. Naruto, following the projectiles with his Sharingan, used his own kunai to parry the projectiles before throwing a single shuriken and going through his hand seals and shouting, "Multi-Shadow Giant Shuriken Clone Jutsu." The single projectile divided into 10 parts and enlarged into the Fuma Shuriken size. The Jonin's eyes widened when he saw the projectiles coming his way. He had no option but to jump in the air, which was exactly what Naruto wanted him to do. Following the Jonin, Naruto used both his Sharingan and natural flexibility to deliver his strongest offensive taijutsu technique, hitting a strong kick to the Jonin's temple. Losing his balance, he dropped the sack midair. Naruto, however, caught it before it reached the ground. He then quickly opened the top and saw 2 girls around his age. Both had black hair. Their eyes were shut and they were huddled against each other with tears running down their faces. Naruto quickly undid their bindings, prompting them to open their eyes and look at him. Naruto then said, "Run to the Hokage, tell him what happened. I will hold that guy off and give you enough time to escape." Both the girls looked shocked. A boy just their age had managed to free them. One of the girls then said, "But what about you?" Turning to look at the Jonin, who was regaining his senses, Naruto said, "I will be fine, just get the Hokage to get here as quickly as possible." Both the girls hesitantly nodded before running off to the Hokage office. The Jonin, after regaining his bearings, snarled at Naruto and said, "You should have left when you had the chance, brat. Now I will take my time killing you." Saying that, he disappeared and appeared before Naruto and punched him hard in the stomach, causing Naruto to cough out blood. The Jonin didn't stop his assault and then kneed Naruto in the face, breaking his nose before kicking him into a tree. As soon as Naruto impacted the tree, his head started bleeding and he was about to lose his consciousness, but fought to stay awake as he knew that the girls were still in danger. The man looked at Naruto with a maniacal grin and said, "So you are still awake, huh? This might be fun after all." He weaved through hand signs at a quick pace and shouting, lightning style, "Howl of the Wolf Jutsu." As he said that, a 3-meter-long wolf made of lightning appeared and rushed towards Naruto. Naruto closed his eyes accepting death, however it was at this time his body glowed blue and 4 blue chains erupted from his back and wrapped themselves around the wolf, disintegrating it. Naruto on his last legs was working on pure instinct and willpower followed his gut as the chains quickly wrapped themselves around the unsuspecting Jonin, hindering his movement. Naruto, using the last of his chakra, pumped it into his good hand and legs and launched himself at the Jonin before hitting on the face as hard as he could, knocking the Jonin out. As soon as the Jonin fell down, the chains disintegrated themselves and Naruto wobbled his way to a tree and leaned into it, falling unconscious himself. This was the scene that the Hokage, the Hyuga clan head Hiashi Hyuga and the Uchiha clan head Fugaku Uchiha along with their daughters walked into. Anbu, take the kidnapper to Ibiki for questioning. Tell him to get the information out before the Raikage comes for his meeting, said Hiruzen. The Anbus saluted before disappearing with the body. After this, Hiruzen rushed to Naruto and began checking his vitals. After feeling them to be stable, he sighed before lifting the boy up and moving to the group. "Anyo, is he alright?" asked the Hyuga heiress in a shy voice as she played with her fingers. "Yes, he is fine, he is only unconscious. He should be fine after a few days at the hospital," Hiruzen replied in a kind tone. He was extremely proud of what his grandson had done. The will of fire was indeed burning brightly in him. "Ito, will we be able to visit him when he wakes up?" the Uchiha heiress asked as she fondled her skirt while looking at the ground. "I think that can be arranged, don't you think so, Hiashi?" asked Fugaku, to which the Hyuga clan head nodded and said, "It will be possible. This boy has garnered the favor of the Hyuga clan, we will paying for his entire recovery," announced Hiashi. "And the Uchiha clan will be responsible for his security during the days he will be at the hospital," announced Fugaku. Hiruzen nodded at that and left with Naruto taking him to the hospital. As the others left, Hiruzen thought, security and pay. Don't make me laugh, you only want to keep an eye on him. Quote. 3 days later. Asterisk. Naruto's eyes fluttered open and he saw the familiar ceiling of the hospital. He struggled before sitting up and spotted Hiruzen sitting on a chair. Heiji. He was broken off by a violent cough which prompted Hiruzen to quickly make his way toward him and hand him a glass of water. After a long drink, he looked at Hiruzen again and grinned before saying, "Hey Gigi." Hiruzen then stood up and said, "Don't you hey Gigi me, mister. What were you thinking when you confronted a Jonin? You could have gotten yourself killed. What do you have to say for yourself?" he scolded. Naruto looked down, tears welling in his eyes, and in a low voice replied, "I am sorry, Gigi." Hiruzen's eyes softened at that and he scooped Naruto up in a hug. He let the boy cry it out before saying, "What you did was foolish. On one hand, I am slightly angry that you put yourself in danger, but on the other hand, I am immensely proud of you. You stood for your fellow villagers and became the light for them in that dark moment. You are a true carrier of the will of fire. I am proud of you." Naruto then looked up and smiled before asking, "Gigi, how long was I out and are both of those girls okay?" "You were out for 3 days, don't worry, I informed the academy of your absence, you can go there from tomorrow. And yes, both of them were fine, they visited you while you were out. Now get some sleep, you have school tomorrow," said Hiruzen. "Alright Gigi, good night, see you tomorrow," said Naruto as he rolled over and fell asleep. Making his way to the academy, Naruto couldn't help but think about the talk he had with Hiruzen regarding his chains. It was a big reveal and he was having mixed feelings about it. Shaking his head to clear his thoughts, he made way to the academy with a smile, hoping to make friends just like his dad asked him to. Flashback no jutsu. Say Gigi, during the fight with that Kumo Jonin, I was suddenly able to material some chains. They were really strong and stopped a really strong lightning wolf coming towards me. Did I inherit that from my dad as well? Asked Naruto. Hiruzen cursed under his breath. He was hoping that Naruto wouldn't remember the chains. It was going to be a disaster, he knew it. No, Naruto. Those chains are called adamantine chains and you got them from your mother, replied Hiruzen and carefully waited for Naruto's response. Wait, you knew my mom? What happened to her? Asked Naruto in an excited voice. I don't know, Naruto, but I can show you her photo, said Hiruzen as he took out a photo of Kushina standing with Minato and handed it to Naruto. What he didn't realize was that the picture in question was when Kushina was pregnant. An eerie silence followed after he handed the picture to Naruto. Sensing something to go wrong, Hiruzen quickly activated his privacy seals and waited for Naruto to speak. So the Yondaime is my father? Asked Naruto in a hollow tone. Flinching at his tone, Hiruzen replied, yes, he was, Naruto. Before you react, hear me out. I will tell you everything. Why the villagers seem to hate you, and why did I hide this fact from you? After my explanation is complete, I will give you everything your father left for you. But don't interrupt me until I finish, agreed. Naruto only replied with small nod. Taking in a deep breath, Hiruzen began and said, as you know, 6 years ago the nine-tailed fox attacked Konoha and was killed by the Yondaime, correct? Naruto only nodded before Hiruzen continued and said, well, it's wrong, the Kyuubi is monster made of chakra, it can't be killed. Knowing that the Yondaime sealed the Kyuubi into his children, he took its chakra and sealed it into his daughters, whereas he took the beast's soul and sealed it into you. Wait, I have sisters. Where and who are they? Asked Naruto with a little hope. Naruto, there isn't a way to sugarcoat this, so I will be blunt. I didn't want to tell you this until you were older, but the situation deems it necessary. For some reason your mother thought that you were the demon reincarnate and left you, taking her daughters with her. She also removed you from the Uzumaki clan. However, your father already suspected something and made you his sole heir for all his money and all his jutsus. You will become the Namikaze clan head when you become older and stronger, said Hiruzen. Naruto looked down, Hiruzen's words weighing heavy on his little shoulders. He looked up and whispered, am I a demon? Did my dad really love me, or did he leave me everything just because of my bloodline? Naruto, he loved you very much. So much that you can't even imagine it. He was a true genius and saw through everyone's intentions before making sure your future was secure. Now here, takes these 2 scrolls and read them, you will find all your answers in them, Hiruzen said in a kind and soft voice before handing Naruto 2 scrolls. He opened the first scroll and found it to be the will and last rites of the Yondaime. It stated, I, Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage of Konohagakure no Sato, clan head of the Namikaze clan, which holds its seat as one of the 4 noble clans of Konoha, leave all my fortune, which includes the entire wealth of the Namikaze clan and its compounds, every property I own or is registered under the Namikaze name, to my son Naruto Namikaze. The Namikaze clan compounds have been sealed by the various security, privacy and barrier seals attuned only to my son's chakra and blood. He is the sole inheritor to the entire wealth, knowledge and lands owned by the Namikaze clan. I hereby name Naruto Namikaze, son of Minato Namikaze and Kushina Uzumaki, Jinchuriki of the soul of the Kyuubi no Yoko, as the heir to the Namikaze clan. If anything happens to me, this will be my last testament and order that everything be handed down to Naruto after he is ready to learn the truths through Hiruzen Sarutobi, to whom I have trusted this responsibility in case his mother abandons him or if something happens to her in the aftermath of my death. Hiruzen Sarutobi shall be the guardian to the clans and my own wealth until the time he deems him ready. Minato Namikaze, Yondaime Hokage, Namikaze clan head. Naruto didn't show any outward reaction but was inwardly a little happy that he wasn't forgotten. Opening the second scroll, he saw that it was a private letter that was addressed to him. Shakily opening it, he began to read. Naruto, oh my little boy. How much I wish I could be there for you. There are just so many things I wish to talk to you about, teach you. Pass on my, well, everything to you. Now where to start? I never really was that good at these last words, but I guess these are really the last. Get it? Oh well. Well, I really wish the scroll I left with the old monkey doesn't come to use. But if it has, and trust me I pray it doesn't, then you have led a life full of loneliness. I have taken measures for your safety and all your basic amenities you will ever need growing up. Hiruzen has probably taken very good care of you, and if he hasn't then trust me he and I will have some words soon. He doesn't really have much time left anyways, I don't get how he stays so fit in that age, must be his thing. You will probably be owning a lot of money and power by the time you open this letter. I hope and I am watching you that you don't become arrogant or turn foolish with all the wealth and fortune at such young an age. But I know you're my son, I trust you enough that you won't be like that. Seeing how much you look like me, I can proudly say you'll be just as awesome as your old man. Well, now let's let some parental instincts kick in. Do not, and I mean absolutely not, turn into a pervert like Jiraiya sensei if he ever makes contact with you or tries to turn you into his corrupt ways. Or I swear, he'll regret ever dying after me and I meet in the afterlife. Make friends. I know it will be a bit difficult for you seeing the burden I have put on your tiny shoulders, but try and make some friends. You don't need a whole lot of them, just a few would be enough that you could trust completely. And that brings me to the next point. Girls. Now no need to be embarrassed about hearing this from me, every parent has to tell their children about this and this will be the least embarrassing in your case. When you'll get the letter, you'll be a young man and it is only natural to take an interest in girls. But try and find a nice girl, a girl who loves you with all her heart and one you could trust your life with. Love, now I can't explain it to you. You'll know when it happens, both of you will stay and wait for each other even if you are so far apart it doesn't look like you'll be together again. Your hearts stay connected even through that. When you feel so strongly about someone, then you can say you are in true love with each other. I wish you find your partner and hope she is very kind and pretty. After all, I need a cute girl to see with my little boy from up here, you know. No alcohol or sake until you're of age, and even then only a little. It's alright to drink a little on occasions, but it harms you if you take it excessively, so try and stay away from it. Be careful about the handling of money matters, alright. Try and help as many people as you can with the money you have. That is the best use it could have. Alright, now moving on from my don'ts of life, I hope you did well at the academy. Even if you didn't, don't get depressed. Sometimes it takes time, but I'm sure you'll get it right. After all, it is a parent's duty to trust in their children, right? Remember that everyone has strengths and weaknesses. Find your strengths and harness them, weed out your weakness through hard work and perseverance, and I'm sure you'll make me proud. Blood splatter. Naruto, looks like my time is getting up. Now listen and remember this carefully. There was an orange-masked man with a lone Sharingan in his right eye behind the attack of the Nine Tails tonight. He'll be back for you, and your sisters, I'm sure of it. Get strong enough to protect them and yourself. Make allies who would stand up next to you and watch your back and gain enough strength to deal with him when you finally have to face him. Blood splatter. Naruto, from now on, you're going to face lots of pain and hardship. Be true to yourself, have a dream and have the confidence to make that dream come true. I have left you with scrolls for my personal techniques, the Rasengan, the Hiruzen and the space-time absorption barrier. I hope they help you when the time comes. Oh, in Naruto there's so much, oh, so much more that I want to pass on to you. I wish I could stay with you longer. I love you. Tears were streaming down Naruto's face as he read the letter. He then hugged the letter to his chest and shakily said, "He loved me, I was wanted." Hiruzen chose this moment to get up and hug Naruto as he soothed him and let him clear his chest away. After Naruto had calmed down, Hiruzen said, "Naruto, you do understand that I can't reveal your heritage right now, don't you?" Naruto nodded and with a small smile said, "Yeah, I understand, Gigi. I read that Tuchin had many enemies who would stop at nothing to attack. Until I get stronger, I won't reveal my heritage. Now I know I can't live in my clan compound, but do you think you could give me my dad's notes on his jutsus?" asked Naruto with a shy voice. Of course Naruto, and since you took this news so well I will teach you two jutsu myself. Though I want to ask, are you okay? The news of your own mother abandoning you must have hit you hard, Hiruzen said in a tender voice. Yeah, it was hard. They have been living in peace since they were born, not knowing any hardship. It really hurts, but I know that Tu-chan wouldn't want me to wallow. I will move on from this and make him proud. Also, I won't take the clan name right now, I will take them after I become Chunin or something, said Naruto, to which Hiruzen nodded. Naruto, I do want to ask, what will you do if, for example, your mother apologizes to you and tries to make amends? Asked Hiruzen with a curious expression. Nothing. Nothing at all. I will let Uzumaki-sama know that I want nothing to do with them. But I will show them appropriate respect that is given to fellow shinobi, said Naruto, to which Hiruzen nodded. That is all I needed to know, now run along. I will meet you in a week with books on all 10 levels of Fuinjutsu, your father's notes, and finally to teach you the two jutsus I promised you. Is that okay? Asked Hiruzen, to which Naruto nodded with a big smile and left the office. Flashback no Jutsu Kai. On the other side of town, Hiruzen Sarutobi had his own set of problems. The first and foremost being a mountain of paperwork in front of him. It was at that moment Jiraiya appeared from the window and said, "Hi sensei." Not looking up from his paperwork, Hiruzen replied, "Jiraiya, good to see you again, what are you doing here?" "Oh, I just came to tell you that we started training the twins the year ago, and we should be back by graduation time," replied Jiraiya, to which Hiruzen gave a stiff nod. "So sensei, how's the kid? What was his name again?" asked Jiraiya in a nonchalant tone. Hiruzen looked at him incredulously and said, "Seriously, Jiraiya? What is his name? You don't remember your own godson's name?" Minato must be rolling in his grave seeing how his wife, his own teacher and the village he gave his life to save, are treating his son. Jiraiya looked down in shame before Hiruzen sighed and said, "He has had a very difficult life. He has no friends his age. He almost died twice in the last couple of years because of mobs of people attacking him. Though he is a good kid, he wants to be Hokage and surpass his old man while also protecting the villagers." "What you mean to say is that he knows who his dad was?" asked Jiraiya in a surprised tone. "He inherited his father's genius, Jiraiya. He already had a fair idea, and then I merely confirmed it when he asked. I had to explain the whole Kyuubi incident to him and also what happened that day," said Hiruzen. "How did he react to Kushina leaving him?" asked Jiraiya in a nervous voice. Sighing, Hiruzen replied, "Badly, very badly. He said that he will respect them as fellow shinobi, but ahead of that he couldn't care less what happens to them. Basically, if there was a chance to get back together, it's gone." Silence ensued in the room. Neither of the two willing to break it. Jiraiya then picked a photo of a shirtless Naruto being coddled on by Hiruzen. His eyes went on the seal and began to critically analyze it. After a few minutes, his eyes snapped back towards Hiruzen and he asked, "Can I keep this picture? I want to study this seal a little more." Hiruzen only nodded as Jiraiya stood up and left through the window. Back with Naruto. Asterisk. Making his way to classroom number 222, Naruto knocked on the door and waited. After a few moments, a man with a scar on his face appeared and looked at him questioningly. Naruto just gave him the paper that his Jiji gave him. After reading it, the man smiled and ushered him to come in. "All right, class, we have a new student. Please introduce yourself," said the teacher. "Anyo, my name is Uzumaki Naruto. I hope we get along with each other," he said shyly. As he said that, murmurs went across the room, some positive but mostly negative. Two Eris, however, had the same thoughts. "It's him." Just as the murmurs became too loud, a voice shouted, "Oi, you are the one that Sarutobi Jiji told me about." "Wait, you know the old man?" Naruto replied, confused. "Damn right I do. I am his grandson. He told me that the future Hokage will be coming to class today. Was he referring to you?" asked the boy. "Damn right he was, Dadbayo," replied Naruto. He then made way and sat down next to the boy who was named as Aizen Sarutobi. As he sat down, Naruto critically analyzed the rest of his classmates. Most of them were civilians, but it seemed that on pure coincidence there were clan heirs from nearly every major clan of Konoha. There was a boy with red markings on his feral face and a nin dog companion on his head. He was the heir on the Inuzuka clan. Another one with a lazy expression and a hairstyle that resembled a pineapple. He was the heir of the Nara clan. There was a fat boy having spiral symbols on his cheeks, and he seemed to constantly have a bag of chips in his hands. He was the heir of the Akamichi clan. A boy wearing a long coat, sunglasses and a hat. The heir of the Aburame clan. A girl with platinum blonde hair and blue eyes, the heiress of the Yamanaka clan. We obviously have the heiresses to both the Hyuga and Uchiha clans. And finally there was the heiress of the Kurama clan. She was a brunette with brown eyes. Naruto droned himself out of the lesson because he felt that it was boring and was glad when bell to lunch had rung. "Say Naruto, let's go to cafeteria to get our lunch," said Aizen, to which Naruto nodded. He was glad to have found someone like him. When they went out to the ground they saw groups of kids already formed and chatting. There was however one girl who was sitting alone. It was the Kurama clan heir. Naruto looked over to Aizen and pointed at her. He sighed and said, "I don't really know why, but no one sits with her or even talks to her. It's been 3 days and still I haven't seen anyone talk to her." Naruto nodded before giving a small smile and saying, "How about we go and sit with her? It is obvious that for some reason we are the class outcasts. People like us stay together. What say?" Aizen grinned and said, "You bet, let's go." The two of them made way to Yakumo and the three began talking to each other. Slowly the conversations became more fluid and more comfortable, and before they could even realize it, a deep bond of friendship and trust had already been formed. Naruto even invited the two of them to come train at his place at the weekends, to which both of them readily agreed to. The trio didn't go unnoticed by the rest of the heirs. And that is another reason we should avoid them. You saw how easily they befriended that demon?" asked Kiba, the Inuzuka heir. "I have to agree, I thought he would be different considering he did save me and all. Guess it was just wishful thinking." Sayuri sighed. "Troublesome," replied the lazy Nara. The group of heirs kept on chatting and gossiping. It was a few minutes later that Naruto noticed that the Aburame heir himself was sitting alone. Naruto excused himself from his group and made way to him and said, "Hi, my name is Uzumaki Naruto, what's yours?" "Aburame Shino," came the stoic boy's reply. "Why are you sitting alone, Shino?" asked Naruto. "No one invited me." "Why?" "Because my clan is generally one treated to be an outcast because of our relationship with bugs," Shino replied stoically. "Bugs? What relationship do you have with them?" asked Naruto. "Our clan houses colonies of bugs inside our body and uses them for ninja arts," Shino replied, already expecting Naruto to grow disgusted and leave. "Wow, that's so cool. What type of bugs do you usually use?" asked Naruto, his interest growing by the minute. "We normally use Kikachu. They are bugs which suck chakra," replied Shino. He was surprised by Naruto's interest and was inwardly glad to have not been completely shunned. "Cool. Nay, Shino, come with me to my group," said Naruto. He then pulled Shino along with him and introduced him to the rest of the group. After a few minutes, Shino was accepted as the part of the group. Naruto felt that the group was complete. They had a loudmouth in Aizen, a shy one in Yakumo, a stoic one in Shino, and a genius in Naruto. It felt amazing belonging somewhere. Looking around, Naruto just knew that now finally he could call the village his home. In his office, Hiruzen was smiling warmly at the scene. In front of him was Shibi Aburame and Yumiko Kurama. Shibi had a small, barely noticeable smile. This was something considered to be big, whereas Yumiko was openly crying happy tears. "So what do you think of Naruto?" asked Hiruzen. Looking at him, it's logical that he is no demon. "Why? No demon would make attempts at making others feel better," replied Shibi, with Yumiko only nodding along with him. "So do you approve of their friendship?" I am asking because from what I've heard for Kasumi and Itachi is that both Hiashi and Fugaku have instructed their daughters to stay away from Naruto, asked Hiruzen. I approve, he is a good kid and has a strong will of fire in him, said Yumiko with Shibi giving a small nod. Well, it looks like we have found the next big team. Who knows, they could become Konoha's Yanin in the future, said Hiruzen with a chuckle. It caused Yumiko to let out a laugh and Shibi to smile. Asterisk timeskip at the weekend. Asterisk. Nay Gigi, so what jutsus are we going to learn? Asked Naruto excitedly. Well, the first one is Kage Bunshin, it's a B ranked kinjutsu. I want to teach it to you because of your large chakra reserves. Now follow this hand sign, he said as he crossed his fingers making a T shape. As Hiruzen did that, a puff and a second Hiruzen appeared. Now then Naruto, you try, said Hiruzen. Naruto nodded and crossed his fingers before shouting, Kage Bunshin no Jutsu. A few puffs went out and a few semi-solid clones appeared. Not bad Naruto, keep trying and when you are done we will move to the next jutsu, said Hiruzen. Nodding, Naruto continued to try it, and after 2 hours, much to Hiruzen's shock, Naruto had managed to produce 50 completely solid clones. He grinned foxily at Hiruzen, who could feel the smugness coming of Naruto in waves. Shaken out of his stupor, he looked at Naruto, who wasn't even winded. Grinning inwardly, Hiruzen said, now Naruto, the Kage Bunshin is a kinjutsu because it uses a large amount of chakra. I don't want you to use more than 50 at a time, am I understood? Hiruzen finished in a stern tone. Naruto nodded, after which Hiruzen said, this technique will help you in training as well. As the Kage Bunshin are connected by nerves, everything they experience will be sent back to original as if they did the task themselves. Naruto's eyes widened before he giddily giggled. Stopping after a while, he said, I presume they don't affect physical training, right? Hiruzen nodded. Naruto then, turning to his 50 clones, said, alright people, I want 10 of you on chakra control exercises, 15 of you to practice the next katas of the hummingbird, and the last 25 get moving on Fuinjutsu, read the books Gigi bought, and practice calligraphy. The clones nodded and distributed themselves accordingly. Now then Naruto, your father left you a summoning contract with the toads. They are among the strongest summons in the world. They took as their summoner when you were just a baby. Now I will teach you the hand signs for the summoning jutsu. It will take you a long time before you can summon a battle toad. Now look at these hand symbols. Boar, dog, bird, monkey, ram. Now practice these hand signs, then I will tell you how to summon, said Hiruzen, to which Naruto nodded and started practicing. After a couple of hours, Naruto had fluently gotten the signs down and was awaiting further instruction. Now then Naruto, repeat after me, said Hiruzen. He then bit his thumb before making the hand signs and finally placing his hands on the ground and shouting, summoning jutsu. As he said that, a puff of smoke was seen and a small monkey appeared before looking and disappearing in a puff. Now then you try, said Hiruzen. Nodding, Naruto bit his thumb, went through with the hand signs, and after placing his hand on the ground he shouted, summoning jutsu. A small puff of smoke was seen and a small red and purple toad was seen. Yo, I take it you are our new summoner? Asked the toad. Yup, that's me, chirped Naruto. Cool, do you have any snacks? Asked the toad. Not right now. How about you go back and when I summon you next time I'll get you snacks, said Naruto. Sounds fair. By the way, Gamakichi is the name, see ya later, said the toad as he disappeared in a puff. How was that, Gigi? Naruto asked in a smug tone. That was good, keep practicing both their jutsus. I will teach you some more later. Okay? Asked Hiruzen. You got it, Gigi-sensei, Naruto said in an excited tone. Gigi-sensei? Asked Hiruzen, slightly confused. Yup, you are my Gigi even if we aren't related by blood, and you taught me 2 good moves with promise for more, so sensei. Combine the 2, it becomes Gigi-sensei. Naruto chirped, causing Hiruzen to chuckle and then rub Naruto's head affectionately. Say, Gigi-sensei, can I tell my friends about you know everything? Asked Naruto in a worried voice. Crouching down in front of him, Hiruzen placed a hand on his shoulders and said, "Listen, Naruto, they are your secrets to tell, however, I want you to wait until you trust them with your life and they trust you with theirs. Also, your relationship has just started, let it grow before testing it." Naruto nodded and hugged him before saying thank you. Hiruzen then decided to ask Naruto about his training plan. "Say, Naruto, what do you plan to do with your dad's techniques and when will you learn them?" he asked. "Well, Gigi, I am thinking of spending the next 3 years working on my chakra control, Funijutsu, Taijutsu, and the jutsus you will teach me. When my control and knowledge on Fuinjutsu will reach level 6, then I will start learning all 3 of my dad's jutsus and hopefully I will be able to use them when I become a genin," said Naruto, to which Hiruzen nodded with a proud smile. "I am proud of you, Naruto, you really are something. Always remember to train but not to get power hungry. You should also add your Kekai Genka training in your schedule," said Hiruzen. "I almost forgot about that," said Naruto while he slapped his forehead, causing Hiruzen to sweat drop at his antics. Only Naruto would forget that he possessed 2 very strong Kekai Genkas. He truly is a mixture of both his mum and dad, thought Hiruzen. "Alright, Naruto, dispel your clones 5 at a time every 5 minutes. After you are done, meet me outside, we are getting ramen as a reward for your good work," said Hiruzen. Naruto jumped up and down in excitement as he began dispelling his clones while dreaming of ramen. It had been 6 years since our hero had started the academy and made his friends. Now sitting at 5 feet 4 at 12, he could proudly say that he trusted all 3 of his friends for life. Today was the day of the final exam before the life of a genin. Needless to say, Naruto was beyond excited. During the years at the academy, Naruto had kept himself on an average position in the class. Enough not to draw any unwanted attention to himself. Over the years, thanks to the use of shadow clones, he had grown massively in all of his shinobi branches. He was now a level 6 Fuinjutsu user and had started dissecting both of his father's signature seals, the Hiroshin and the space-time absorption barrier. His taijutsu and speed were mid-chunin level thanks to his use of weights and then resistance seals after he reached level 5. He had also finally matured his Sharingan completely. Naruto, however, wasn't overly dependent on the eyes. He used them only to cast and break genjutsus, or to copy new jutsus that his Jiji was going to teach him. He had also massively improved his ninjutsu, which now stood at an impressive high chunin level. He still hadn't done any elemental manipulation but was very skilled with non-elemental jutsus, even creating some personal versions of jutsus that he knew. He had also improved his summoning and could now summon at least 1 battle toad. He had also gained good control over his chains. However, the highlight for him would be his mastery of the Rasengan. It made him happy and feel close to his old man after learning his signature technique. As he was excitedly waiting for the exams to begin elsewhere in the fire capital, a nervous Kushina was packing her things to return to Konoha. The reason to her nervousness will soon be revealed. Multiple flashback no jutsu. Kushina walked through what was left of the village gates at the crack of dawn toward the carriage that would take her and her new family to the capital with her newborn daughters in hand. As she was about to enter the carriage, she looked back and saw Hiruzen standing at the dislodged entryway to the village with a sleeping Naruto in his arms. The sickening disgust she saw in his eyes as he glared at her before he turned his back to her and walked towards the Hokage tower hurt her immensely. He was the man that Minato respected above all others, and to see him regarding her with such awful disappointment, she could only hope that he would see the truth behind her words one day. She forgot her pain as she gazed longingly upon the 2 red-headed infant girls that were fast asleep in her arms, neither of them having a care in the world. She smiled lovingly at them, thankful that despite last night's horrific attack by the Kyuubi, or whatever tragedy might befall her, her family, her village, or even her nation, there was still so much purity and innocence in the world. That purity and innocence had to be guarded and preserved for as long as possible. They would be free from worry for now, at least, as despite Hiruzen's anger with her, he still cared enough to provide an Anbu detail to escort her and her babies to the capital. The trip took 2 full days at the slow pace the carriage moved at. During that time, the Anbu hadn't spoken with her, and neither had she bothered to speak with any of them, guessing that they likely felt the same way about her that Hiruzen did. She couldn't fault them for that. They didn't know any better, after all. When they had arrived at the capital and they had stopped at the courtyard of the daimyo's palace, she thanked her escorts, who merely disappeared without so much as a word of acknowledgement, and exited the carriage. To her surprise, the daimyo himself was there to greet her and welcome her personally. Feeling honored by the daimyo's personal greeting, she thanked her feudal lord and allowed him to lead her to the Uzumaki estate grounds within the capital proper. There was still quite an impressive staff of caretakers tending the grounds and the house, many of whom Kushina had even known as a young girl, and all of whom greeted her and welcomed her home warmly. All of them gushed over the 2 baby girls in her arms, commenting on how beautiful they were and expressing their sentiments over how proud Kushina must be of them. She entered the main house, put the girls down into the double crib that had been prepared for them, and went to settle down in the living room. She allowed herself a smile, despite her sadness at both Minato's passing and Hiruzen's disappointment. All that mattered at the moment was that she and her girls were home, safe and sound, and they would have a happy life and childhood, here. The twins' first birthday came and went much more quickly than Kushina could have thought possible. Kushina had met the day with mixed feelings. The day would forever be bittersweet to her, and while she would remember the loss of her dearly departed husband and the death of her son by Kyuubi's possession, she was also very happy to celebrate the beginning of the girl's 2nd year of life. She and the girls were very content and comfortable with the luxurious, safe and peaceful life that they were able to enjoy in the fire capital. She had written to Hiruzen, giving him the annual report she promised she would give to him every year detailing her health and the health of the girls, and when she began training them, she would let him know how that was progressing, too. The letter she wrote to him was forgettable for the most part, though she did ask whether he had dealt with the demon and avenged Minato's death yet, or whether he would want her to do it herself. She had been surprised when, the very next day, she answered a knock on her front door and opened it to a courier ninja. The courier had an official certified letter addressed from the Hokage to her, a letter that she had to sign for. Whatever this was, Hiruzen was sending it to her as the Hokage, not as an old family friend, and he wanted a guarantee that she received it. Signing for the letter and dismissing the courier ninja, she closed her door, took the letter to her kitchen table and unsealed it. As she opened the scroll and read its contents, unlike the letter she sent to Hiruzen, his words would forever burn themselves verbatim into her psyche. Uzumaki-san, while it gives me great relief to know that you and your daughters are well, and that you are enjoying the protection of the daimyo, the guardian ninja 12 and the samurai forces of the land of fire, your request to murder your innocent 1-year-old son is not well received at all. As I informed you last year, your intent towards your son was seen even by your husband in his final few minutes of life, and he took steps to protect young Naruto from you. You dishonor Minato with your evil, twisted desire to harm an innocent, your own son, no less. He must be rolling in his grave with disgust and fury at how far you've fallen, and I have no doubts at all that he would spit in your face if he were to see you now. I myself am thoroughly ashamed and disgusted that I once thought of you as a daughter, no longer. From this day forward, you are my subordinate, and I am your Hokage, nothing more. As Hokage, I hereby prohibit you from returning to Konohagakure no Sato before your son and daughter's anticipated date of graduation from the Shinobi Academy. Exceptions to this executive order will be as follows. 1. If I summon you back, you are to answer my summons and come to Konoha immediately, where you will be escorted directly to my office upon your arrival at the gates. At no time during your visit will you be permitted to walk the village grounds without an escort. At the conclusion of the business for which I summon you, you will immediately be escorted back to the gates and sent on your way, once again prohibited from village entry. 2. if you send me advance notice via official communication of your intention to come to the village, and the date you expect to arrive, you may come to Konoha's gates, but you will be detained at the guard station until an Anbu can escort you to my office so that you can conduct whatever business you will need to conduct with me before once again being escorted back to the gates and sent on your way, once more being prohibited entry without either an official summons from me or advance notice of your arrival. Should you be found approaching Konoha's gates or within Konoha's walls without having met the conditions of either of these exceptions, I will have no choice but to assume that you have come to either harm young Naruto or end his life, and I will have you executed on sight for charges of treason against Konohagakure no Sato and conspiracy to commit murder of the Namikaze clan heir. After your execution, your daughters will be brought back to Konohagakure no Sato to be placed in an orphanage while allowing them to be raised and trained to be shinobi of Konoha. Also, be forewarned, Uzumaki-san, any attempts by you to harm or murder Minato's son through indirect methods, such as assassination, will also result in your execution and the remanding of your daughters to Konoha's orphanage system. As a standard protocol, this executive order has been officially stamped with the seal of the Hokage and submitted to the daimyo for his records and perusal. Ordered by Hiruzen Sarutobi, Sandaime Hokage, Konohagakure no Sato. Kushina was stunned beyond belief at what she had just been sent. To think that the professor that was always so kind to her had written such cold-hearted words shocked her. What was worse, he had not only written this as a letter to inform her that she was no longer considered a friend to him, but also as an executive order from the Hokage that had to be obeyed or she would suffer legal, and perhaps corporal ramifications. He had even used her last name instead of her first name to address her in the letter. She knew that the grounds for which he stated her punishment being immediate execution were clearly plausible. Biju Chakra or no, the demon that fit Naruto's description was classified as a Jinchuriki under the letter of the law, and to top it off, he was also the legal heir to the Namikaze clan, and even she couldn't legally defend herself against charges of treason and conspiracy against a clan heir. Despite the righteousness of her feelings and the justice of her path, her hands were tied, and as much as she hated that demon wearing her son's skin, she loved her daughters that much more. She gritted her teeth in anguish, a few tears escaping her eyes before she was able to force them back down. She penned a response back, stating her intention to visit Konoha tomorrow to speak with him directly. Once completed, she informed the nearest maid that she had business in the capital, and asked her to tend to her daughters until her return. It was 3 hours later that she received an official acknowledgement from Hiruzen via messenger Hawk stating that the gate guards would be expecting her arrival tomorrow and that she would be provided an escort to his office. She left for Konoha early the next morning, once more leaving her children in the care of the Uzumaki staff, taking to the trees to travel quickly and arriving in 3 hours. As told, she was detained at the gate to wait for an Anbu to escort her to the Hokage's office. It was a male, hawk-masked Anbu that arrived to escort her to the Hokage, taking her to him via Shunshin. Even the tone of his letter hadn't prepared her for the cold fury and near hatred that Hiruzen was now bearing down upon her. The meeting was quick, and the point driven home that she would receive no special favors of any kind from the Hokage due to feelings of past kinship. He had told her, in no uncertain terms, that while he couldn't officially declare her an enemy of Konoha, he now personally regarded her as one. She was escorted back to the gates and left the village very unsatisfied. A week later found Jiraiya at her door. Having been stricken from the Toad contract, he now had to manage his spy network directly by traveling and meeting with contacts himself. He had left Konoha to do this, and had informed Kushina that a visit to her and the girls would be a pleasant stop along the way. Of course, he needed to travel around the world and do his research, which he also informed her of without any shame, prompting her to pummel him into the ground. It was during this visit that he noticed Kushina wasn't herself. "Kushina, what's the matter? You haven't been acting like yourself since I got here," he expressed with concern. With a sigh, Kushina answered, Sandaime Sama has forbidden me from returning to Konoha before it's time for the girls to become genin unless I'm either summoned by him or unless I have business there that I have to inform him of beforehand. She continued sadly, he's basically ended our friendship and says that he now regards me as his enemy because of that demon. I see, Jiraiya offered with a sigh of his own. Well, that's not something I'm about to get involved in. I know how you both feel about the situation, so I'll just leave it alone. Thank you, Jiraiya. I really appreciate that. Coincidentally, during the third day into Jiraiya's visit, Tsunade and Shizune also came by the Uzumaki estate. Sarutobi had informed Tsunade of Kushina's relocation for the time being, so she decided to stop in for a visit to her three godchildren. Kushina was about to speak up about Naruto not being her godson anymore, but Jiraiya stopped her with a firm grip on her shoulder and a stern glare while he shook his head in the negative slightly. So I've seen the girls, but where's Naruto? Tsunade asked happily. Well, Tsunade, Jiraiya answered, Sensei wanted the boy to remain in the village so that he could bond with it the same way his old man did. It was Minato's dying wish. While confused at such an explanation, Tsunade chose to accept it, such as it was, and didn't bring the matter up any further. All of them simply enjoyed spending time together and bonding with Kushina's red-headed toddlers, who surprised them all by taking their first steps in their presence. Another week had passed, and Jiraiya, Tsunade and Shizune all prepared to leave, Jiraiya to his business, and Tsunade and Shizune to theirs. Jiraiya had promised Kushina he would return by the girl's 5th birthday so that he could start training them with her. Wait a minute, Jiraiya. What about Naruto's training? Tsunade asked innocently, not noticing the darkening of Kushina's eyes, nor the icy frown on her face. Don't worry about that boy, Jiraiya retorted with his usual bluster, he's got the old man to look out for him and train him. He'll be alright, he won't need me. Tsunade, once again confused as the attitude Jiraiya was taking towards Naruto which was so different from his attitude towards the girls, just nodded, but she narrowed her eyes in suspicion at him before taking Shizune and going on her way. Once she was out of sight, Jiraiya turned to Kushina, all pretense gone, I only lied to her so that I could help you save face, Kushina. You do realize that Tsunade would cut any and all ties with you just like Sarutobi-sensei did if she were to learn the truth about your abandoning the boy, don't you? That demon isn't Naruto, he's the Kyuubi, she shouted at him in frustration. Do you really think she'd buy that? I don't, and I can tell you for a fact that she won't, either. Now, I won't cover for you, again. Bear that in mind, Kushina. Kushina simply bristled in anger, but chose to say nothing. Jiraiya pulled his scroll onto his back and gave his goodbye, I'll see you in 4 years. And with that, he walked out of the Uzumaki estate, departing the capital for places known only to him. Flashback end. 12 years since that last visit by Tsunade, and 8 years since Kushina had realized her gross mistakes and wrongs, and she still angrily asked herself how she could have not only been so stupid as to jump to the conclusion that Naruto was the Kyuubi without properly inspecting his seal first, but so evil-hearted as to not want to even entertain the hope that Naruto was still alive and well. What had come over her during all that time? To this day, she still found herself wanting for an answer. She only knew that there was no excuse for it. She continued to pack up the things she would be taking to Konoha with her, completely unaware that a certain Hokage was reflecting back on those turbulent days as well. Konohagakure no Sato. It won't be long, now, Hiruzen Sarutobi mused to himself morbidly, Kushina will be coming back here in a few months with her daughters once their training is completed to her and Jiraiya's satisfaction. What the hell am I supposed to tell Naruto about all of this? Hiruzen had made a good many mistakes and questionable judgment calls regarding Naruto, judgment calls and mistakes over what to tell him, what not to tell him, how to handle the knowledge that he'd been keeping from Naruto for all of these years, all for his own safety and to keep him as stable as he possibly could, given the poor boy's circumstances. Thinking of Kushina made him think back to that day he gave Jiraiya the photo of baby Naruto with his seal exposed, the day which would mark the beginning of his own mistakes regarding the boy and his mother. Flashback. Hiruzen was in his office going through the usual paperwork he dealt with. It was a month before Naruto's 5th birthday, and he was still working to fit in time to celebrate it with him. His train of thought was interrupted as Jiraiya came in through the window. Sarutobi quickly looked at him and nodded, not even cracking so much as a smile. He could tell that Jiraiya was perplexed. After all, he usually smiled at seeing his former student but just couldn't bring himself to do so after his last disappointing encounter with him on the night of Naruto's birth. Of course, he knew that Jiraiya would also likely attribute it to the pressure he must be under with the work of the village. But the truth was that Hiruzen had lost almost all respect for his student and eventually came to realize that, while he had trained 3 great shinobi, they were lousy people. Of the 3 of them, Jiraiya was the only one that had continued to give Hiruzen any hope, and that hope was dashed on the night of his successor's children's births. Now, he regarded all 3 of them as nothing more than failures and disappointments. "Hey old man, how's it going?" Jiraiya asked jovially. "I'm doing fine, Jiraiya," he responded in a near monotone, and asked, "How are you?" Without even bothering to look up from his paperwork, not noticing Jiraiya's grin. "I'm doing great. My research is coming along well and I'm excited to train the twins after their birthday when I return to Kushina. Unfortunately, I won't make it back to the party in time and I'll miss all those beautiful noblewomen," he whined, to which Hiruzen sighed and just shook his head in resignation. Jiraiya hadn't changed at all over the years. "Hey, how's the kid, what was his name?" he asked with a finger on his chin. Hiruzen stopped moving his calligraphy brush at this. With an annoyed and disappointed grimace, he slowly looked up at Jiraiya and responded in quiet disbelief, "Seriously, Jiraiya? What was his name? Do you seriously mean to tell me that your late student's family means so little to you that you can't even remember the name of your own godson?" "Huh?" Jiraiya responded cluelessly before retorting with indignation, "What do you mean? I do care for Minato's family. I've always made sure to keep tabs on Mito and Narumi. Really? Now, and if they didn't tie into your almighty prophecy, would you still care as much?" Jiraiya frowned darkly and asked in a low tone, "And just what is that supposed to mean, sensei?" Unfazed, Hiruzen proceeded to rebuke his student. "Jiraiya, your late student's family means far less to you than this prophecy does, which has given you an overwhelmingly overinflated sense of self-importance. The only reason you even remember Mito and Narumi's names is because you're convinced that they're the children of this prophecy, and I only know that because training them and their relation to the prophecy is all you ever talk about." Hiruzen then added sarcastically, "Minato must be looking towards you from the afterlife with such pride, especially with how much you care for his son. What was his name?" Jiraiya's dark frown left his face after that, replaced with a frown of utter shame. Before he could say anything else, Hiruzen spoke up, "But to answer your question, Naruto is doing fine, although he's a very lonely boy. He hasn't been able to make any friends at all because the adults in the village keep their children away from him." "Oh, well, I'm glad to hear he's okay. And I suppose he'll make friends in time," Jiraiya offered, though his shame and a sense of doubt could be heard in his tone. "He takes after his father," Hiruzen told him, bringing Jiraiya's gaze right to his with a saddened expression. "He's the spitting image of him, and not just in his looks. He's also inherited Minato's genius-level intellect as well. In fact, I would dare say he's an even greater genius than Minato was. If I could do so, I'd take him as a student of my own." Hiruzen's eyes narrowed in resignation. "God knows it would be nice to have a student that didn't end up as a failure and an utter disappointment as a human being like the 3 of you did." Jiraiya's sadness became laced with hurt at Hiruzen's claim. He'd seen that look on his sensei's face before, though. Hiruzen had all but given up on his former students. Jiraiya began to look around the room looking for something to latch his sight and thoughts onto. He saw a picture of Naruto when he was a baby in Hiruzen's arms on his desk and picked it up. Naruto was in his diapers and the seal on his stomach was clearly visible. Jiraiya, now intrigued, narrowed his eyes and began to do a visual inspection of the seal in the photograph. The complexity of the seal was far beyond anything he had ever seen. Minato had outdone even the greatest of the Uzumaki sealmasters by combining two such strong seals along with several minor ones perfectly, and had synchronized them to perfection. In his last moments, Minato Namikaze had indeed created his masterpiece. "Hey old man, I am taking this picture. I'd like to study the seal on Naruto. Do you mind?" he asked and Hiruzen nodded. "Take it. I have copies. I'll put another one here," he said. Jiraiya nodded and left through the window, not even saying goodbye. Hiruzen closed his eyes and sighed once more. Only one word seemed to fit for all of the people once connected to Minato Namikaze: disappointment. And these twilight years of his life seemed to be filled with nothing but disappointment, with Naruto being the only bright spot in it. Flashback end. As much as Hiruzen hated paperwork, he was actually finding it a welcome distraction to the impending dilemma that would blow up in his face if he didn't take steps to start resolving it. Fire Capital. Kushina had finished packing her bedroom, and was now sealing up her kitchen goods. Her cast iron skillet was still as beautiful and black as the day she had first acquired it. She'd taken very good care of it and used it to cook countless meals for herself and her girls. But with that thought, she began to think of all the meals she had never cooked for her son. It was when she was preparing this particular pan for use that the horrible truth had been made known to her. Flashback. It had been a month since Kushina had thrown the twins' 5th birthday party and she had started training them. She had been trying to teach them how to unlock their chakra, and even with her guidance, the twins had just succeeded this morning. That had to be some kind of record. She was currently starting to cook dinner, having just turned on the stove, heating up her cast iron skillet so she could make a stir fry. It was as she was doing this that she heard Jiraiya barge in through the front door and bellow a greeting. Kushina turned off the stove and ran out of the kitchen to greet him, smiling as she saw him for the first time in almost 4 years. She tackled him in a hug as he also threw his arms around her and spun her around in a couple of circles. "Oh, wow, it's good to be back here," Jiraiya exclaimed. "I'm glad you're here now, Jiraiya," Kushina offered. "I'm just getting dinner ready, and I'm sure you're hungry." "You have no idea." Kushina called in Mito and Narumi, introducing them to their grandpa Jiraiya. Both of them managed to find a place in his heart quite easily as he got on the floor with them and played with them until dinner was ready. The meal was pleasant, with Jiraiya getting to know the two excitable little red-headed rascals. It was shortly after the meal was over that Kushina declared the girls' bedtime. Both of them groaned but complied, knowing better than to argue with their scary mother. Once they were in bed and asleep, Kushina began talking to Jiraiya, who was smiling fondly over his time with the girls. "Once again, I've had one hell of a time trying to teach the girls. They're both a bit slow, definitely more physical than cerebral, if you get my drift." Jiraiya's smile quickly faded upon hearing this, replaced by a melancholy frown as though he'd been reminded of something painful. "What's the matter?" Kushina asked him, concerned. "Hey Kushina, I need you to take a look at something," he answered before pulling a couple of pictures out of his pocket and handing her one of them. Kushina examined the picture she was given. It was a blown-up image of a very complex seal. She looked at it critically, not understanding what he wanted her to do. "Study that seal carefully, Kushina," Jiraiya instructed, "and tell me what you see." She did as she was asked, studying the seal very carefully. It took her almost half an hour to determine the full capabilities of this seal. She even had to pull out some paper and a pen so that she could take some notes to keep from missing some of the functions. It wasn't just a seal, it was a magnificent work of art. Even the seals on the girls' stomachs didn't compare to what she was looking at. It was far beyond anything she was capable of, she would dare say that no Uzumaki had ever made a seal so complex or so perfect. She had seen the Uzumaki clan's works on seals, and none of them described anything that was as complex as the seal in Jiraiya's picture. It's amazing the way the seals in this array are all synchronized, even with the two high-powered base seals. This could seal off anything the seal master wanted and it would work perfectly. I don't think I could even begin to replicate this. She exclaimed excitedly. What would you imagine the limits of that seal being? Jiraiya asked. I don't think it has any. Kushina exclaimed, looking at it. I'd imagine it could seal all 9 of the Biju into one host and still have enough power for more. So then, this is a seal you would trust without a doubt. I would trust this seal with my life. If, Kushina's voice saddened, breaking slightly, if only this seal had been used with Naruto, I'd still have my son. Kushina, Jiraiya began sadly, letting out a heavy sigh before handing her the second picture and telling her, that is Naruto's seal. Her eyes went wide in dumbfounded, fear-filled shock. What did you just say? This seal was Minato's last work, his masterpiece, Jiraiya explained, pointing to the second picture, a picture of Naruto as a baby with his seal exposed, with Hiruzen cooing at him while he appeared to be giggling happily. He put it on Naruto to seal the soul and body of the Kyuubi completely, making sure it had no chance of ever taking over his own son. I was surprised myself when I saw this picture in Sensei's office, but Minato really outdid himself with this one. Hell, he outdid every seal master I've ever heard of when he made this. She stood up in horror and took a step back only to collapse a moment later, her legs refusing to hold her up. Her eyes began to well with tears of horror, anguish and tortuous remorse. How could she not have seen the complexity of the seal that night she had checked the triplets? She remembered back to the night of their birth, the ripping of the Biju from her body, and the emotional distress of Minato, knowing that he was taking his dying breaths. She hadn't even bothered to study the seals at length until she'd made it here. She didn't notice the intricacies of the seals at first glance, she had just stabilized them with her chakra as quickly as possible. No, she whispered out in utter horror, her tears beginning to fall. 5 years. 5 years where she could have had her son with her there. 5 years of precious moments and memories, thrown away. No, she whispered out again, putting her hands to her mouth. She'd never remember seeing his first steps. No, she groaned out. She'd never remember hearing his first words. No, she began to raise her voice as sobs began forcing their way up from her throat. 5 years of missed birthdays, missed presents, missed chances to tuck him into bed and kiss him goodnight. She didn't even have a clue as to how he was living, or if he was healthy and happy, or if anyone was taking care of him. No, she yelled with her eyes clenched shut, her voice completely broken as her sobs gave way to bawling. She clutched the picture of Naruto to her chest as she did this, hanging her head and almost collapsing to the floor if not for Jiraiya moving fast enough to catch her and hold her to himself while she wept uncontrollably. I'm sorry, Kushina, he offered. He simply didn't have the heart to remind her that he and Sarutobi had told her of what she was just now acknowledging, that Naruto was in fact her son, that he was alive and well, and that he'd never been possessed by the Kyuubi at any point in his brief life. Oh my god, what have I done? She wailed, my baby, my Naru-chan. I left him alone, I abandoned him. She cried even louder, I even threatened to kill him. What have I done? Her cries became so forceful that she lost the ability to form words. Her wails and bawls were such that her body heaved up and down with each sob that forced its way out. This went on for almost half an hour before Kushina had cried herself hoarse. Jiraiya marveled at the fact that the girls had remained in their room fast asleep. Kushina must have placed silencing seals in the rooms so that their rest wouldn't be disturbed from any errant noises around the house. Oh God, she whispered with renewed horror, what would Minato think of me if he could see me now? What would he say to me? Kushina, Minato already knew this would happen, Jiraiya explained, Sensei told me that Minato saw how you looked at Naruto and he took steps in case what he feared to be the worst happened. And, Kushina sniffled, it did. I did the worst thing imaginable. I abandoned his son, my son. In a sudden burst of determination, she wiped away her tears and stood up, moving towards her door as Jiraiya watched on in confusion. Where are you going, Kushina? He asked. Without stopping, she answered, I need to send a message to Konoha by messenger hawk. I'm going to tell Sandaime-sama to expect me tomorrow morning. You're gonna what? I'm bringing my baby boy home. She fired back, opening and closing the front door as she left through it. She was back a few minutes later, and Jiraiya had just waited for her return in the living room. Kushina, are you sure you know what you're doing? Jiraiya asked warningly. It doesn't matter if I do or not, I'm bringing my Naru-chan home. I'm going to apologize for not being there and I'm going to do whatever it takes to make it up to him. I won't let him stay alone anymore. As soon as I get the message, I'm leaving for Konoha. Both of them stayed up throughout the night. It was a couple of hours before dawn that a messenger hawk delivered a response from Sarutobi, stating the usual conditions. Kushina stood up and prepared to leave the house once more. I'm heading out, Jiraiya. Take care of Narumi and Mito for me. I'll be back as soon as I can. She left the house before he could say anything more, speeding her way to Konoha as fast as her legs and the treetops allowed. The sun was just beginning to peek over the horizon as Kushina arrived at Konoha's gates. They looked a fair sight better than they had when she came 4 years ago, and even the damage caused by the Kyuubi that night was completely repaired without any trace of it ever having been there. She checked in with the gate guards, who had indeed been expecting her arrival, though not quite so early, and waited there for her Anbu escort to the Hokage's office. She only waited a few minutes, surprised that Sarutobi was awake and at work this early. It had just passed 6 o'clock, and the village as a whole was still asleep. The Anbu took her shoulder, and without another used Shunshin to get himself and her to Hokage Tower. Hokage-sama, escorting Kushina-sama to your office as ordered, he said. With a nod of acknowledgement from Hiruzen, the Anbu vanished. Hiruzen's eyes hardened as they focused on Kushina. He asked coldly, what business brings you here, Uzumaki-san? Hokage-sama, Kushina greeted him formally with a humble bow, surprising the man. I have realized how badly I messed up when I abandoned my baby boy all those years ago. I'm asking. She got to her knees and bent her hands and head to the floor. No, sir, I'm begging you, please let me see my Naruto-chan so I can bring him home. A growl from Sarutobi's throat caused Kushina to lift her head. Despite the tears that were beginning to fall down Kushina's face, the Hokage's eyes remained steadfast in their iciness. After what you pulled, both that night and the year afterwards, you expect me to suddenly believe you've seen the light, and now want to make up for your mistakes. I understand your doubts, Hokage-sama. I don't blame you for having them. But Jiraiya showed me the seal Minato put on Naruto, he made me study it in depth, and I could see that there's no chance of the demon taking over. Please, Hokage-sama, let me bring him home, or at least let me bring my daughters back here so that we can live together in the village with him. No, Uzumaki-san, I can't do that. More to the point, I won't do that, he said. She flinched at his tone then became desperate. Please give me back my son, I'm begging you. Please, Hiruzen, he glared at her when she used his name, but she didn't stop. I need him just as much as he needs me. Please, I'm begging on my knees here. Believe me when I say I love my son, she said in tears. He sighed, rubbing his temples as his will wavered. Even if I do believe you, Uzumaki-san, it's not that simple. He has experienced some rather traumatic incidents in his life recently, and I can't in good conscience burden him with the truth of your abandonment. It could break him completely in the condition he's in right now. No, Uzumaki-san, I won't let you anywhere near him, for his own safety. I pleaded to you before you left and again for a year in letters that he needs his mother, but you refused to hear of it. Why should your pleas move me now? The truth is that I'm not sure if I even want to let him know you exist before it's time for me to reveal his heritage to him and fulfill my promise to Minato, he said, and she looked at him, her tears falling even harder now. What do you mean by traumatic incidents? Tell me, what happened to my son? She asked, and his eyes hardened. What happened to him is the direct result of your abandonment of him and leaving him here. Now, I've heard and said enough. This conversation is over. Leave, Uzumaki-san, our business is concluded. Tori, Neko, he said as she tried to plead more, but he released the privacy seals and flared his chakra as two Anbu came in the room kneeling. Escort Uzumaki-san to the gates and send her on her way, he ordered the two. Before he or the Anbu could act, however, Kushina stood on her feet, planted herself into the floor using 4 chakra chains with several more flailing through the air around her defensively, and flooded the room with extraordinarily powerful killing intent, causing the Anbu to retch and even making the Hokage sweat a bit. Hiruzen Sarutobi, I will not be dismissed so easily and casually. If you want to send me to Ibiki Morino when we're done here, then I'll go without resisting, but I'm not leaving or moving from this spot until you've given me the time I deserve for making this trip, do you understand me? Kushina shrieked out at him at the top of her lungs through tears of anguish and frustration, shocking him with her furious determination. Hiruzen used some of his own killing intent to match the pressure Kushina was exerting with hers. He stood to his feet and glared at her with determination that was just as unyielding as hers. Studying her, and seeing that nothing he could say or do would persuade her to leave without either giving her what she wanted or putting up a fight that wasn't worth engaging in over a matter of his time, he gave a resigned sigh. Tori, Neko, he addressed his agents, stand down and return to your posts. Sir, are you sure? Tori asked his commander in an even tone, though his doubts as to his cage's safety could be heard in his question. I promise you that I will not attack him and I don't mean him any harm, Kushina tried to assure the two Anbu in the room, her tears beginning to lessen. I'm sure, Tori, Sarutobi answered the ANBU's question, you may stand down. Both Tori and Neko nodded, saluted their Hokage, and vanished from sight. Sarutobi returned to his seat as well and clasped his hands together in front of him. You may also stand down, Kushina, she sniffled as he used her first name for the first time in 4 years. I will hear you out, but surely you must know that I cannot allow you to have custody of Naruto. Kushina grit her teeth together in anguish, her tears beginning to renew themselves. She allowed her chakra chains to dissolve and recede back into her body. She once again fell to her knees and bowed her head and hands to the floor. Please, Hiruzen, Kushina pleaded, tell me what to do. I know you don't trust me and you think I'm an evil monster, and you're more than justified to feel that way considering all I've done. But tell me what I can do to earn back your trust. Tell me what I can do to show you that I've changed, that I truly do understand my sins and atrocities and that I want to atone for them and redeem myself. Please. Her last plea was yelled out as her voice broke through her sobs once again. Tell me what I have to do to get my son back so that he doesn't have to suffer anymore. Despite the anger and animosity Hiruzen felt towards the woman who was currently kneeling prostrate before him now, he could deny that she was genuine and sincere in the desires she expressed. Could he maybe give her a test of sorts? Could he not give her the benefit of the doubt right now? But at the same, could he afford to? And how would this affect poor Naruto? Kushina, please lift your head, Hiruzen requested in a conciliatory tone. When she had done so, he gestured with his hand, palm face up, to get off her knees and stand before him. When she rose to her full height, Hiruzen began, Kushina, you're putting me in a very difficult position. Here, she nodded to show she understood as he continued, one that doesn't have a simple, easy answer. I'm sorry, but I can do and tell you nothing more that concerns Naruto. That's unacceptable. Kushina interrupted him, I won't leave this spot until I at least have more than I came here with. If you want me gone, you have to give me something. And why should I give you anything at all, Uzumaki-san? Hiruzen demanded testily. I get that you can't allow me to take Naruto, and I know and understand why. But can I meet him, at least, even if I don't reveal myself to him as his mother? Can I try to start building something, anything, with him at all, even if it's only from a distance? Please, Hiruzen, give me a little hope, here, Kushina said with tears streaming down her face. Sighing, Hiruzen said, let's just say he has had 2 attempts on his life from within the village, and the fact that he fought of an enemy Jonin who was about to kidnap the Uchiha and Hyuga heiresses. During the fight he activated his chakra chains and managed to knock the Jonin out. Later on, purely by coincidence, he learned the fact that you were his mother and about everything that happened on the day of the Kyuubi attack. Reaching to this point, he stopped speaking in favor of having a breather. Kushina, as she heard Hiruzen speak, felt her heart sinking, and she waited a while before asking, how did he react? Pretty much as you'd expect him to. The look of pure betrayal in his eyes still haunts me. I gave him Minato's letters in which he explained the reasons he did what he did. Naruto calmed down a lot after that, and then for the very first time in his life smiled a genuine smile, before he promised to me that he'd make his old man proud by becoming Hokage himself. He idolizes his father more than anything. Now what I am going to say may hurt you. I asked him what he would do if you ever came apologizing. He simply said that he didn't care anymore about what others do. He said he'd respect as a senior shinobi, but nothing more than that. I am sorry, said Hiruzen. Hearing that, Kushina felt her heart break even more. A whole new wave of self-loathing and disappointment hit her. She had lost her son. After a few minutes she slowly whispered, can you tell me about him? Let's just say he is a sad boy with no friends. He tries his hardest to see the best in people. He is a natural-born censor, and not to mention that he is a literal carbon copy of Minato. Not just in terms of looks but also in terms of genius. Can you imagine that he learned how to read at 2, and by 4 he was already reading chakra theory and was practicing control using theory and books. Also, he seems to take both nin and fuin jutsu like a sponge. If I am not mistaken, he should already be halfway through level 1. That's all you need to know, said Hiruzen. I understand. Can I at least send him gifts and letters? Kushina asked as her voice cracked. No. That would create more problems for the future. Though I would like to ask to give us your notes on the chains. He needs to train them as well, said Hiruzen, to which Kushina readily nodded. Can I see him? Kushina asked in a very short voice. Only from afar, said Hiruzen as he took out his lacrima, and both of them watched as Naruto cooked and then went to sleep. After a few minutes, Kushina looked at Hiruzen with tears streaming down once again and said, please Hiruzen, tell me, is there any way for me to get my baby back? I know I haven't been the best mother, but I really want to make amends. Only time will tell. Now I think you should return to the capital. It won't be long before your daughters notice your absence, said Hiruzen as Kushina nodded and left with an Anbu. Kushina sped back home, wishing she could have brought Naruto with her, but grateful for what concessions Hiruzen had made to her. The old man did as he had promised, allowing Kushina her first glimpse of her near 6-year-old son, and as it should have been on the night he was born, she immediately fell in love. Just seeing him and watching him as he read, studied and cooked for himself brought her to tears once more. How she longed to go down into that apartment and sweep him up into her arms. How she yearned to hug him and kiss him all over his face, telling him how truly sorry she was and how much she loved him. How she ached to bring him home with her and surround him with the love of his family. It was not to be, as Hiruzen brought her back down to reality by ending her time in Konoha and personally escorting her to the gates to see her off. She had returned to the fire capital by late afternoon, and had now entered the Uzumaki estate. As soon as she entered, Jiraiya came up to greet her, but saw a tear-stained face, and no little boy in hand, though she had a sad yet hopeful smile. He could see that while she hadn't gotten what she wanted, she'd been able to walk away with Hiruzen having given her something. She washed her face, put on a smile for her girls whom Jiraiya had brought to greet their mother and welcome her home, and began to cook dinner for her family, thankful for her loved ones, but wishing she could be cooking for her son as well. Jiraiya knew better than to press the issue, and the girls were just as clueless as they ever were, something she found herself to be quite thankful for at the moment. It was the next morning, before the girls were to be woken up for breakfast, that Jiraiya come to Kushina and asked about her meeting with the Hokage. She explained everything that took place to him, about Hiruzen's refusal to allow her near Naruto, about the attempt on Naruto's life, which caused Jiraiya to flinch, though the things Hiruzen asked her to keep to herself, she did. She also told him about laying eyes on him for the first time since his birth, and what she was going to do for Naruto from that day forward. When she was done, Jiraiya asked her, Kushina, when are you going to tell the girls about him? And what exactly are you going to tell them? I'll tell them when I think they're ready, she answered plainly, and I'll tell them everything. I won't leave anything out. Are you sure that's wise? Jiraiya asked warily. I mean, you don't know how they'll respond to what you have to confess to them. They deserve to know. How they'll react to me isn't what's important. But I have faith in them to take it all in stride. Well, okay then. If that's what you want to do, I won't stop you when the time comes. Just be careful, okay? She smiled sadly at him and nodded. Before she prepared breakfast. Flashback end. Kushina continued packing the kitchen as she reminisced over her time spent there, time where she missed Naruto's childhood, but smiling at the things she had learned of him through Hiruzen's continued correspondence. She thought about her frustration with the girls' training over the years, and she couldn't help but compare it to the sheer euphoria of learning about the things she could teach to Naruto when she got the chance. Sadly, the joy she felt at the idea of teaching Naruto was sometimes tainted by news of Naruto being attacked once again, especially on his 6th birthday. Flashback. Fire Capital. Jiraiya and Kushina had been training the twins for a year now, and it became more and more apparent that they took more after their mother than their father, something that now both scared Kushina and made her feel ashamed. She began to fear that they would react to Naruto the same way she had, just following their impulses and not taking the time to really think things through. Her fear was compounded by the fact that neither of the girls was as intelligent as she was, and they were also a good bit more impulsive. She had tried to teach them about battle strategies and deceptions in the shinobi world, but they lacked the attention span to learn such subtleties. They were both headstrong, beat 'em up first and ask questions later, types like she used to be. They had also inherited her fiery temper and brash personality, along with the dense chakra that she had. But while their chakra was quite dense, their chakra control was beyond abysmal, a dilemma she couldn't understand. It wasn't surprising for Jinchuriki to have poor chakra control due to their reserves, but their control was almost negligible, and nothing that Jiraiya and Kushina tried could seem to improve their control. In addition to their dense chakra, the mixing of the Kyuubi's yin and yang chakra respectively into their coils brought problems of their own. The control needed to keep the demonic chakra from bursting forth unrestrained wasn't there due to the absence of the 1,000-year-old soul that was sealed within their brother, which was needed to filter and regulate such potent, dangerous chakra that did not belong to them. Kushina and Jiraiya had tried to teach them any chakra control exercise they knew, even the ones that they thought were more advanced than those their age should be practicing. The leaf exercise, surface sticking, water walking, nothing worked, and all that their efforts showed were leaves ripped to shreds, potholes on walls and trees, and a lot of waterlogged clothes. The girls had no apparent concept of the word restraint, and their short tempers didn't help them, either. Needless to say, Kushina knew it was going to be a long and tedious path to get them to master even the basics. She and Jiraiya began to take a different approach, and started training them in her clan's style of taijutsu, the Uzumaki's swirling fist, which relied on the weakening of an opponent first through the use of seals or other long-range attacks, such as water-style ninjutsu or her adamantine chains, and then going in for the kill. It was based on strength and force, designed to take down an opponent by going on the offensive and landing fierce strikes. The downside was that the swirling fist had almost nothing in the way of defensive techniques, which was the style's greatest weakness. For most Uzumaki, however, this weakness was negligible, as their skill in sealing is what provided the defense that they needed. And therein lay another crucial problem. She had tried to teach the girls sealing, but it just didn't take. Neither of them had the patience needed to learn the subtleties of the complex art, nor to develop the necessary skill in calligraphy. What was worse was that neither of them had inherited the Uzumaki clan's natural talent for the art. They didn't care. It wasn't flashy enough for their tastes, something that once again saddened Kushina to no end. She had tried to convince them how powerful seals were and had showed them some, but the only ones they were interested in were exploding tags and storage seals, and even these were difficult for them to follow or understand. Kushina spent the day where she realized they wouldn't progress beyond those two basics in virtual mourning. Jiraiya had started to teach them basic ninjutsu and was their personal taijutsu sparring partner. He himself had no particular taijutsu style, being a bit of a brawler himself, except for the frog kumite taught to him by the toads, which was now useless to him due to his eviction from the Toad clan and his loss of sage mode. He had taken bits and pieces from many of the styles Hiruzen tried to teach him in his younger days and crammed them all together in a style that worked for him. The only advantage he had was that he was very unpredictable, though any taijutsu master would likely tear him to shreds, and a user who had experience fighting his style would give him a very hard time. Kushina had not given up on reaching out to Naruto through Hiruzen, sending letters to Hiruzen on an almost weekly basis, asking for any news on Naruto he was willing to impart upon her, whilst occasionally asking him to reconsider allowing her to meet Naruto and bring him home. His answer was always no, but the more often they corresponded, the more cordial Hiruzen's letters became, and the more hopeful she felt. She had learned that almost all of the clans of Konoha had attacked Naruto at one point or another, only the Uchiha had not. She would have to express her gratitude to the Uchiha clan properly when she returned to Konoha. The other clans, she would be paying their leaders personal visits, and she would be out for blood. The rest of the letter was of a much more positive nature. Naruto had encountered seals recently, and was completely and utterly fascinated by them. Already, he was practicing calligraphy, and he could even make working explosive tags and storage seals. And he was only 6 years old. He had inherited both hers and Minato's talents for sealing. Oh, how she couldn't stand waiting to be able to teach him everything she knew. She was also told of his first week at the academy. It was rough for him, as most of the children there had been told by their parents that he was a worthless clanless loser who had been abandoned by both his parents. This made her very, very angry, and she resolved to pay a few parents of Naruto's classmates several personal visits once she was back in Konoha. She was sure that she could get a list of Naruto's old classmates after he graduated. And if any of those parents were the same clan's folk that she would be visiting already, then they wouldn't escape her with their lives. She, however, was glad when she learned of the friends he made. It made sure that he wouldn't be alone and had several people standing up for him. Flashback end. As Kushina was preparing for summoning the slug that would take them to Konoha, she began to reflect on how the girls had progressed in their training over the years. The basics had to be drilled into them constantly, as they were both rather slow learners. She was not surprised, however, when she saw their affinity towards chakra-intensive ninjutsu, both of them having a decent number of techniques in their repertoire. They were both highly proficient in the fundamental techniques of the swirling fist, but the advanced katas were still beyond their current abilities. True mastery of the style is something they would never have due to their lack of desire and ability to learn the sealing arts, but Kushina would at least make sure that they could use the style to a sufficient degree of proficiency to be able to take on any non-Uzumaki adversary. Her thoughts took a tangent back to Naruto for a brief moment. She looked forward to teaching him the swirling fist, as unlike the girls, Naruto could attain full mastery of it if his skills in sealing were to be believed. She could only hope that maybe seeing Naruto master the style to a degree that they could not might impress upon the girls that sealing is a skill worth taking the time to learn, as a true master of the swirling fist could stand toe-to-toe with any ninjutsu user without using any ninjutsu of their own. The swirling fist was indeed that fearsome when used the way it was intended. Kushina grew nervous about returning to Konoha and introducing Naruto to his family. The girls had known about their brother since they were 7 years old, and thankfully they forgave their mother once she had admitted everything. Both of them had cried over the fact that they never knew their brother, but they believed Kushina when she told them she was doing literally everything she could in order to bring Naruto home to be with them. Every single picture that was sent by Hiruzen, she would show the girls and Jiraiya. While Jiraiya never seemed too impressed with him, the girls couldn't help but gush over their brother as though he was the greatest boy ever born. Narumi even had Kushina make copies of his most recent pictures for her. Kushina smiled and giggled as she thought about the crush that Narumi had developed on her brother in the last couple of years when she would catch her fawning over those pictures and blushing when she didn't think her mother was looking. She didn't doubt their love for their brother, but what concerned her was their pride bordering on arrogance due to having everything handed to them freely. She knew that Naruto knew no such privilege, and should the girls say the wrong thing to him, it could have disastrous consequences, and possibly destroy their chances of building any kind of family connection with their brother. Naruto had suffered. He had suffered beyond what any human being should ever have to suffer, and certainly more than anyone else ever had the right to inflict upon him. All the girls had ever really suffered as children was a bit of bullying at the park. They were 7 years old. Kushina had brought the girls to the park, as she would typically do to reward them after a long week of training. After she left their sight for a little while, some older children of relatives of the daimyo had cornered them in a secluded part of the park, backing them up against the trees as all of them laughed at their terrified expressions. They started to belittle them, saying they weren't princesses, and that their hair made them look like tomatoes. One of them started pulling on Narumi's hair, causing her to cry out and whimper in fear and pain. Mito stood up for her, but was trembling in fear, unable to get them to stop. When their mother came for them, all the boys ran off. Kushina held her girls to her as they cried into her chest. Suddenly Narumi lamented that other than her and Mito, she had no one to protect her if they weren't there, causing her to cry harder. But then Kushina told them that they had their brother to rely on back in the village and that he was really strong. Narumi had stopped crying and smiled as she imagined her big brother saving her and gently leading her back home. Mito wasn't sure if her brother would ever risk his life for them and promised herself that she would get stronger to protect herself and Narumi if something like that ever happened. She too wished that her brother would save her, but wanted to be strong enough not to rely on anyone, and Narumi promised Kushina that she would get stronger for protecting herself and show her brother that she too was strong. Mito's strength and skill were higher than Narumi's and they were the strongest in the capital their age, which again had caused Mito to become quite arrogant, and Narumi only less so, though she still retained her bubbly personality unlike Mito, who thought herself above everyone. Kushina could only hope that the girls would learn humility soon enough, and that it wouldn't have to be a painful lesson as it was often wont to be. She let her thoughts drift off as she laid down to sleep. Tomorrow would be a big day, and she couldn't see any ending that wouldn't be difficult or painful, so they would all need all the energy they could get. They were no inside the slug which was moving at high speeds. Jiraiya going on ahead to report in and prepare Hiruzen for their arrival. When they were a few miles out, Kushina and the girls stepped out the slug and took to the road, moving at a more casual pace. So, Ka-chan, Narumi asked with a blush on her face, what do you think Naruto Ni-chan will be like? Do you think he'll like me? Kushina giggled at Narumi's implied question, though she answered it fairly. Narumi-chan, I think Naru-chan is going to love a bubbly and pretty little sister like you. You too, Mito-chan. Her face and voice became somber as she continued, it's how he'll react to me that I'm worried about. Mito tried to encourage her mother with a determined grin, don't worry Ka-chan. Naruto needs bound to forgive you with how much you love him now. And if he doesn't, then I'll beat him black and blue until he does. Kushina suddenly turned on Mito in anger, her hair rising and flailing like 9 tails of fury. You'll do no such thing, do you understand me? Both Mito and Narumi were quite taken aback at this. Rarely had their mother been angry with them, and never had it been to this degree. Kushina explained herself, girls, listen to me. Naruto has been through a lot in his life. He has suffered things that the two of you couldn't even begin to understand, and he has suffered them all his life. He hasn't been treated well by the village at all, which is actually why I've been fighting so hard to bring him home over the years. I don't expect him to welcome us warmly at all. In fact, I'm preparing myself for the worst, and if he does end up blowing up or even attacking me, I will not retaliate or respond in a negative manner. And neither will the two of you, understand? Mito, don't you even joke about something like that ever again. Both of the girls just looked back and forth between their mother and each other, not knowing what to say. The rest of their trip was made in silence, the mood somber and oppressive. Kushina's fears as they approached Konoha's gates only became more pronounced, even to the point where the girls seemed to catch them as well, lumps rising in both of their throats as they became nervous about what might happen upon meeting their brother in a couple of hours.